Hello everyone and welcome to State of the Realm. It's excitement season when it comes to patch 6.5 and our EU Fan Fest next week. But this week we're going to be revisiting a topic from last week. Last week we did our first impressions of 6.5 and we didn't hold back any of the story elements. This week we're going to bring on people who are smarter than Sly and I to actually talk about it a little bit more. Because y'all know. Y'all in the comments that you know. It's like we get it, but like, you know. All right. Anyway, I'm one of your hosts. What was that, Sly?
Only when drunk, apparently.
Only when drunk? The only time that you know the lore like that in depth? It's like drunk. It's like a drunk recall.
I had to for every Air Zivia. I had to.
Drunk recall is a real thing. I know someone who got their nursing degree similarly. I don't know if they nurse while drunk, but they would think.
Wow.
That's very concerning.
Anyway, I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Happy. Of course, joining me is Sly. Not drunk at the moment, but I think he'll do his best. How you doing, Sly?
Hi.
Is that Liquid Death?
Hi, I'm doing well. Yes.
Okay, I couldn't tell.
Armless Palmer.
I love Liquid Death. It's so funny.
Does that mean we can't? I guess that's Raubon's favorite version of Liquid Death, huh?
No!
You started.
Oh, no.
All right. Oh, yes.
Still too soon.
And we have a slew of lore-related guests, all making their debuts here on State of the Realm. My song's about to run out because we're talking.
Yes.
I'm just going to swap over now since the song's about to run out anyway. We have first, I'll do from top left to bottom here. Excuse me if I get this wrong. Croatoan?
Yes, that's how you say it.
All right. I'm so smart. Yep. Welcome. It's just a quick little introduction for yourself.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It was a huge opportunity, and I really do appreciate it. So I'm Croatoan. I run a platform known as the Excellent Collate, a very lore-focused channel on Twitch, and I every once in a while drop stuff on YouTube. It is a little bit harder for me to do that, but mainly on Twitch. And I've been in the Final Fantasy XIV community since 2015. Been playing since patch 3.1 was the first one I got to get into. And sorry. I want to say, yeah, no. I was there in the era, you know, in the various eras through the game. So I feel like vet status kind of, but not 1.0 vet status.
That's not a vet status you want anyway, trust me.
I do appreciate the work you all went through to keep the game going then. It's been good. I just really enjoy being able to get in the game, but of course was able to start kind of working on a platform in 2018. I joined a group known as Etherflow Media. We did magazine articles. We did a bunch of presentations. I got to interview Bonrioto, which was really insane. And then kind of like from there, just launched off and started covering whatever I could about the lore on Twitch. You know, every once in a while I'll post stuff on YouTube, been on a couple shows. Started getting invited to channels. I was gracefully invited by Cleretic and SynodicScribe on their channels as well. So huge shout out to them as well for giving me that opportunity to share my passion of lore stuff. But of course, you know, the most important reference, I was the Spikes on Spikes guy back in 2018. I was the one that put spikes on the vegetarian. And I think for me at least, that's where it all started off and launched to where I'm at today. So yeah, just really happy to be here and super excited to talk some lore.
Well, welcome in. Good to have you. I'm glad
you.
that Sly has invited you and our other guests because, like I said in pre-show, I am not the social butterfly of all of us. Sly, on the other hand, gets a few drinks in and he's just like, "Hi, hi, come here."
It's not even bad.
So I actually have to say, and in the most loving way, he did that to me at FanFest. Because I remember walking out of FanFest and I hear, "Hey, you!"
Sounds about right.
So that is on point, and it was really cool. I really did appreciate the invitation, promise. But that was such a funny way to be like, "Oh my gosh, Sly is calling to me," and turning around like, "Oh, like what do I do?"
Sounds about right.
That was super cool.
If Discord seems like it's lagging at any point, that's on my end. Just a small spike. Looks like it'll be leveling out in a minute or two. Of course, Comcast. Welcome.
Oh.
Yeah, of course. always. But it looks like it's
Typical
leveling up.
ISP.
No, typical Comcast. I've had good ISPs before. It's typical Comcast more than anything else. But it should be leveled out at this point. All right. Next, we have, and I'm going to hopefully get this, Cleretic. Just assume heretic, Cleretic. Is that where, is that? Okay. See, I'm 2 for 2. I'm good. Welcome,
right.
and of course, introduce yourself and whatnot.
Yes. So, hello, I'm Cleretic, she, her pronouns. And so in terms of like my history with the game, I started back in like late Heavensward. I turned up when there was like Final Fantasy V stuff going on. So that gives you a general ballpark area of that. And I've just been like playing ever since, mostly just quietly by myself. But then I started making lore videos, like around like late Shadowbringers, mostly because like I saw people being wrong and I wanted to correct them.
Yep.
But like I do try to do it in like more of a lighthearted way. I recognize that a lot of this is silly as hell, so let's just treat it like that. And it's just a fun, weird little corner of a hobby we've got. So let's just really enjoy it. And yeah, so my videos have been on things like talking about how Astinian is the strongest person on in the entire game, or why exactly we don't just kill the elementals.
The first one seemed obvious. The second one seemed more obvious.
Oh.
But I also know how people interpret.
With either of them, you'd lose.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
That's amazing.
oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you were done because I kind of cut you off or not.
I'm basically done unless we want to talk about things like the time I talked a whole lot about Ultima Thul's fish.
Hey, that was a good video. That was a really good video.
Yeah, that was fun.
Definitely talk about that one.
Fish of despair.
Yep.
That's fair enough.
In
Well,
other dimensions. Like, it's insane.
Yes.
yeah, that's true. They are. They're just fish from other planets that don't exist anymore. None of them exist. They're not real anyway.
Crazy.
I mean, actually,
Now they're real.
There's a thing that most of them are based on real fish that exist.
Oh well, yeah. That's as long as it's
Most
not
of
whatever.
those fish aren't extra dimensional.
Yeah, as
Right.
long as it's not whatever the heck they came up with at NA Fan Fest this time around. That's I don't even want.
Oh, all right. Yep.
That was painful. I didn't like the way that fish turned out at all compared to the last one. I didn't like that. All right, well, thank you and welcome. And finally, to round things out, we have a Scribe. How you doing, boss? Why don't you do your intro, all that good stuff?
I'm doing good. Hello, everyone. I am the SynodicScribe. Though it seems some of your chat already recognizes me. Nice to see you all here. And I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV since 1.0. Good lord, this game has gone through so many different evolutions, iterations, and everything. And some of it awesome, some of it but I love this game with all my heart. And as such, about 2 years ago, I started to really take YouTube and lore videos seriously. And honestly, since then, I've had nothing but, like, a wave of events and emotions. Like, the channel grew rapidly. I ended up spreading stories to so many people, getting invited to so many things. Ended up going to FanFest because of the success of the channel, meeting so many awesome people like Croatoan there. And then just recently with LunarCon, doing all that stuff with everyone there was awesome as well. So this channel and the audience, the Final Fantasy XIV community as an extension have just been nothing but amazing. So here's hoping that more people are interested in the lore in the future.
It always seems like everyone's interested in the lore, but there's like a hard stopping point where they just like get to a point and they're just like, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop figuring it out.
Yeah.
Now.
I will.
They just had
I will
enough
say.
at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll stop
we're
figuring
sitting-
it out and wait for someone else to tell them what to think.
Yeah, that happens.
Yep. We're sitting at 13 years now, right? If you're counting 1.0 lore, you're sitting at 13 years of content to try to recall at any moment's notice. It's a lot. And I don't blame anybody that feels intimidated, but the invitation is always there. I know for a fact, especially in Cleretic and SynodicScribe's channels, if you have the question, there is an answer out there. and a lot of us do try to push out the idea of an open invitation. I do always give the shout out, but of course, at least for me, Anonymous was the one that got me mainly into the lore in the very, very beginning of it all. And his campfire thing, he was talking about how everyone should be welcome and everyone should be able to talk about stuff. That still applies. So even if it seems intimidating, you should always ask, because there's plenty of us to answer.
No, yeah, he's entirely right. There's so much like stuff to go over that even after having gone over the books like 5 times over already and reading so many boxes of dialogue so many times, I still go over to Croatoan now and then being like, dude, am I reading this right?
Fact checkers.
Yep.
Never hurts to get a second opinion.
Yeah.
With that, Sly, before we get into 6.5, do you have any questions for them since they're so open? Is there something you'd like to pick their brain about that's not inhibited by only being 6.5?
Do it.
It'll come up.
It'll come up.
Oh boy!
I believe.
I'm excited.
Eventually, like, it's just again, let it naturally happen. Like,
I didn't know that there was a thing, so now I know that.
Yeah. So,
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, I do have one, Sly. I just wanted you to go first. I want to find out what team each of the 3 of them is on when it comes to this topic. So,
Oh boy.
time bubble or not time bubble?
Oh no!
Oh boy. So you know what? I'll bite the bullet on this one. I'll go first. So, as someone who enjoys a whole lot of different stories from a whole lot of different parts of media, I enjoy watching a world naturally breathe and evolve on its own. Mm-hmm. So I'm most of the time anti-time bubble, simply because the more you pack into the bubble, the less natural things start to feel at some point.
Right.
Like there's nothing wrong with having a time bubble for a time, but at some point you gotta let it pop. You just gotta let it pop, and you gotta put in the work that comes with it.
Right.
That's one.
Yeah, see, and that I really do agree with that sentiment. It's mainly because the game has been around for such a long amount of time, and I understand the notion of people joining, because this is what Koji's always said, right? He always referred to The Simpsons. He's like, The Simpsons never age. That's what we're trying to do. And yeah, The Simpsons have been around for a very long time, but I think in the terms of how that series works, it works for them. With a sprawling world narrative like Final Fantasy XIV, it doesn't work for 14. It's just, there are specific events that take place that people are tracking, right? Like the Calamity, Shadowbringers. I mean, how many times do you have to tell people about the time loop that we broke and all this stuff? Like, it's just, all of this becomes difficult when there is no forward progression of time. And I don't know if there's an easy answer to it, but the time bubble is becoming absurd at this point. And it's very difficult to track and then explain it in a way that makes sense, because I'm pretty sure if I was to list the top 10 lore questions I receive on the daily in DMs and stuff, they're like, what year is it? And then I just have to respond with the usual meme of Robin Williams. What year is it? Because that's how I feel every time trying to figure it out. And but yeah, I would say for myself, anti-time bubble, because it's rough.
Well, I guess I'm the dissenting opinion then, because I actually generally don't mind it. I think a big strength of Final Fantasy XIV, especially compared to other games, it's generally in the same space with these days, is that you can just do everything that has been Final Fantasy XIV, with some exceptions, like 1.0 stuff. You ain't doing that anymore, but you aren't doing that anymore, and you should be happy about that. But generally speaking, you can do everything that Final Fantasy XIV has ever had since A Realm Reborn, and that's a good thing. It means that someone who joins for Dawn Trail isn't lost and just has to has to ask us about things that like have passed by and they literally can't know about. So, and like the time bubble is a helpful thing for that because it means that they don't have to worry about, oh yeah, this happened 10 years ago. It's like, yeah, it helps them be like a part of the story even if they turned up late. Even if it creates weird situations like this game has apparently, according to Nashu, been going on for less than a year, but we've had 10 Christmases.
Oh, are we going to get into the continuity errors at some point?
There's a reason Sly has his he's ready for his flight.
Oh boy. Still excited. Still excited.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to get into all of that. Because then we won't even be able to talk about 6.5.
Right.
And I honestly could have brought you all on just to, you know.
Oh no, you're entirely correct. The last time, I think it was me and the Eorzean Archives were brought onto a podcast together, he and I wouldn't shut up.
That's what Sly was banking on. That's why he has the neck pillow. He was just like, Sly, you know what? Sly, I don't want you to be that comfortable. You know what? You take care of the next bit. All right? You get us into 6.5 discussion. Take the damn.
Well,
take it off. You're working, Sly. You're working.
Okay. But first, pay the bills real quick.
Oh, the sponsors, right? Yeah, I guess I should do that. I mean,
okay.
Well, we were already so deep into it. We were.
Oh my god!
Sly, they were so into it. They don't mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today's sponsor is
Patreon supporters. That's who the sponsors are. Sponsors over on Patreon. Okay. They just wanted, at that point, Sly, they were into it too. They weren't even thinking about it. The Patreon peeps. They're just like, yeah, no, shut up. Who cares? Just continue talking. We don't care about us. That's fine. So we do. So thank you for supporting over on Patreon.
Thank you.
There you go. See? We did that. And then Steel Series.
And
always. There you go.
There you go.
See?
There you go.
You happy, Sly? No, I'm happy, actually. You're Sly.
I'm happy.
Yeah. I like how I put you into that, and then you did it to yourself.
I'm trying to be good.
Don't try to be good. You're Sly.
You know, okay.
There we go. The alcoholic drinks are coming out now. I'm really good at this. I'm really good at getting him to drink early on a Friday. I don't know if I'm supposed to be proud of that, but I kind of am a little bit. That's fine. Proud of you, Sly.
Well, he's wearing a dolphin shirt, so he's already swimming in it.
Boo.
Boo.
I'll accept that. I like it. All right, Sly, I wasn't kidding. Now I'm throwing it over to you. Get us into the 6.5 discussion.
Well, where do we want to start? Because I mean, we can start with MSQ, but I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, there's a lot to unpack pretty much everywhere.
Sly, I think when I upset you, you might have hit a wire. It's a little crackly.
Oh, it wasn't just me. I thought it was weird for a second.
Yeah, I had the same thought. It's just like
it happened a few weeks ago too. So
I was thinking to myself, oh no!
I didn't touch anything.
Well, it's still happening. So I guess this is your way of getting out of this for the time being while you fix it. All right. So 6.5, we only have the base content at this point. I'm sure if we were to revisit this in a few months, we would have a whole bunch more lore to talk about, but we would never finish the show because we still have to learn about Alo Island, the end of Tataru's Grand Endeavor. We have the Allied Tribe quest where we get to see if we have the return of our infamous villain from that series. And if he goes true
I'm going to be
despair.
surprised. Shoot.
Hildebrand still needs to finish. The weapons still need to finish. See if we learn anything more about that. Yeah. And if Hildebrand comes up and we have to talk about aliens even more, that's going to be a whole different thing. So, fortunately, we're kind of landlocked at MSQ, 24-man, and I guess there's like Margaret, which isn't even done yet at this point.
I like Margaret. Right. Margaret has introduced us to someone who's trying to learn about like why all of those mounts are flying. So that's cool.
Which is something Koji never wanted them to ask about. Khuja is
Yeah.
definitely vehemently against that. It's wind ether. Stop. It's wind ether.
Wind ether. Everything is bathed in wind ether.
It's heckin' windy.
It's
Give us a quick check, Sly.
Mic check 1 2.
Now you can take over.
Dope.
I love how you just did all that and then just went back to me. Okay. So like I was saying, there's a lot of places we can really like start from, but I want to start with the 12.
Okay.
okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
See, I told you this would be easy. So from where we left off, we have our moments with the gods that we have interacted with, and then again, thank God that they put in a little something, a little like I'll take the crumb that I got. Like I just wanted a hug from Mom. That's all I wanted, but I'll take the fact that she knows me. I'll take the fact that Halone knows me. I'm one of hers. I'll take that. And then we're kind of getting down to the nitty gritty as far as the real reason why we are doing this, and the, I guess, degradation that the 12 are going through like each time we fight them.
Right.
So I kind of want to get your guys' takes on the whole thing in general, but I want to start with the, like, what really surprised me was like the degradation, because these like, we eventually find out they were ancients who interacted some way somehow with Vana.
Right.
They're just buddies, Still, my personal favorite is Lim Lane being a angry researcher.
I've got things I can
She's
talk about there.
sassy. She's just so sassy. I love her.
That was a great reference too. Yeah.
Collecting those boxes of dialogue put a smile on my face.
I'm so glad that Ashan went through each individual one, because ever since the Anator, like, we've known like the convocation, and like we learned a little bit about the convocation and what exactly they were researching. I forget what was called an Anator, but either way. But let's start with the degradation of the 12 and what y'all thought about that.
Well, I mean, it's like you said, the 12 themselves were the essentially recreations of those who were Vana's friends and sacrificed themselves to create Hydaelyn. And that's the funny thing that a lot of people seem to like be confusing. They aren't the same people. Like, they fully admit that they are constructs. They are entities created from, like, the memories and feelings of those people, but they are not them, because all their souls were burned away when Hydaelyn was created. But the way they perceive their duty, the way they perceive, like, it's their responsibility to not only tend to the star, but in the end, give up everything for it, just like their predecessors did, kind of like shows a sense of self-sacrifice that just repeats. Even long after those souls are gone, even now, like, they still feel that way, which is kind of beautiful in its own way.
Yeah, I think something interesting to bring up there is, like, okay, in terms of, like, continuity of souls and all of that, they aren't the original ancients, but they are very much the same people. And as we learned over in Elpis, back when the world hadn't, burst into flames, like, the ancients generally, like, considered it their duty to, like, return to the star after they were, like, done with whatever their actual role was. And I think it's very interesting that, like, the 12 during all of this are essentially just doing that. Like, they aren't quote unquote real ancients, but they are following the roles of the quote unquote real ancients. Meanwhile, the Ascians had very much rejected that notion and had just been going the entire time of like, no, we're gonna kill everyone to bring all our people back. So it's like we've got the 12 are essentially more of the true ancients than the quote true ancients that were still around were.
Okay. I think I found it really interesting in terms of like when they explained the essence of the 12 being diluted through combat. It's this really interesting dichotomy that's presented in contrast to what we understood about how the primals worked. Because you have these tribes who are taught by the Ascians that they can be saved if they summon their primary deities. They create these constructs from their faith through heaping up crystals and then gathering all this prayer. And the primals, I thought, at least in this comparison, I saw them as acting in the capacity of this original recipe, I guess you could say, of soul construct, but not having the full capability that was available to the ancients at the time, right? It's like watered down version of what the 12 are, is what the primals are. And you can see the notions of faith, the notions of belief. The 12 are probably what the primals were supposed to be. And they knew that they were built upon the prayers of thousands of faithful. I mean, I want to say the furthest back reference we have of the 12 was made during Allagan history, right, with the rune stones from 1.0, if you remember your rune stones. That's the oldest reference we have to them. So we're talking about 5,000 years of prayer, 5,000 years of faith in various methods, various different ways, religions changing throughout history, building up this massive ethereal battery that was meant to protect the star. And now that the final days are over, they want to return that ether to the star. All of that prayer, all of that faith, they're not taking it like the primals were. They're not stealing it from the planet like the primals were, which was the failed version of the constructs that we know, that we learned about the 12. They were working in the same principle, but at this point, they're giving back to the Eorzeans that they loved so much. And I found that really, really beautiful and endearing, because now all that ether that they gathered from faith and prayer is back to the planet. And who knows what that's going to do? You know, that's a lot of ether we just got back to a world that just got almost destroyed, that we stopped. We stopped the end of the world, and we stopped its ether from being corrupted, and now we got all of it back. So it's like, that's going to be really interesting to see if that causes any effects in the future, like a stronger live stream or something popping up later on.
They even went one step further by making that entire system where even after they're gone, any further worship to the 12 will still systematically
goes back to the star. Yeah,
exactly.
That was
it's
awesome.
Creating
that is so cool.
Smart.
Yeah.
Right.
And I do love that sort of brings forth a concept like, I think 14's had a great ideal around like faith and religion of like, it's not inherently a good or bad thing, but in fact it can like really help people in times of like crisis and things like that. So like to a degree, like the fact that the 12 were being worshipped wasn't the problem. The fact that the 12 were real people was a bit of the problem. So it's just like they've removed themselves from that equation, but they have not removed like the actual like structure of the faith and the worship that actually helps people around them.
It really is kind of like a amazing, like I guess you would call like a framework, because it just goes to show your prayers don't have to be answered by a wrathful god coming from heaven and smiting the person in front of you for them to mean something. You can simply wish for just the act of praying and wishing for something in Final Fantasy 14 now. It will create something later down the line for someone. So it's endearing. Honestly, the 12's story, this entire expansion has been some of the best writing I think has come out of Endwalker.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like my problem with with that storyline has actually been more on the gameplay end, but I'm sure we'll get to that when we get to the gameplay end.
A couple of things to take note of. You mentioned how all that ether returning to the planet and the effect it would have. I wonder how it differs from Zodiac, because when Zodiarc's energy returned, it actually started warping some of the fish life, some of the ocean life, if I recall.
Yeah,
So,
it's
Nice.
that was
There was some fuckery, yes.
yeah, I don't remember which fish it is, but there's something mentioned, I think, in the fishing quests that mentions.
Yes, it's
something.
the fishing quests basically talk about how like Zodiac was sort of a load bearing deity, and so it's like once he's gone, like things got a little pear shaped there.
Right.
Yeah, I just wonder what the interaction is between the balancing element of the 12's energy returning with Zodiarc's energy. Also, still, I think as far as we know canonically, Zodiarc's energy is still it's not back. It's still
No, yeah, you're entirely correct. They even stated that it will take a long time for all of that energy to fully siphon back into the star.
Yeah.
And kind of jumping ahead, but not all the way. That's where Zeromus' ether came from, was the residual Zodiarc ether. Because in the 13th, they had nowhere to go, so it just sat there. And it's like, ooh, that's not
exactly
good.
like all that sundered energy.
Yep.
I love that revelation. Like, oh yeah, the shard where nothing can die. Oh yeah, that probably has
a lot of darkness now.
Zodiac's shin over there.
And then there was also one other thing I was trying. Oh, it's interesting you mentioned how them being deities and not wanting to be, not wanting to take, because we know one other deity that's sort of like that, not entirely, but in that of Ramu, who is of course based on one of the 12 in a sense.
Oh, I didn't think of that connection. That's neat.
Yeah, because his behavior is not.
Ramu was the nicest primal we've met. I want to say.
Yeah, he literally just says, "If you beat me, I'll leave. That's it. Just beat me." Like, I just need to know if you're good enough to actually do the things you say you're going to do, and then I'll leave. And the only
which is really interesting.
Yeah, and the only tempering I think he does is when he is summoned near captured.
Yeah,
right, which is natural. He doesn't like actively seek out.
Yeah, he doesn't intentionally do it.
Yeah.
No. Yep. Which is funny because that asserts that the sylphs saw him as that. They saw him as a rational, understanding, and benevolent being. They didn't see him as this wrathful god. They saw him as a grandfather, and he manifested as such.
Yep.
So just a few tangents I grabbed in my head while I was listening to you all discuss those different bits.
So, no, yeah, even Rolger brings it up when you talk to him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he does. He mentions that. Yeah, the sylphs summoned me. I'm what they think is Ramu.
Doesn't he mention Doesn't he make mention of the fist of Rolger too? Like
yes,
he did that.
He does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other mentions of like things outside of the 12 that the 12 mention in that is like Biagot makes mention if you're big into crafting. Of course, they do mention if they're your patron. And also, if you've done like the like random little yellow quests that include like Althek and Nemea's predecessors, they also mention that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All those fun little tidbits.
There's a lot of references in the Myths of the 12 quests. I think
there was.
There's definitely value in replaying the full thing now that it's on. The whole thing's on New Game Plus, and if everyone has that time, I do encourage it because you're going to kind of probably go back and be like, oh, now this makes sense. And then of course, if you do look like, I'm gonna be completely honest, when they dropped the Lambs of Dalamud reference in Euphrazine, I mean, jumping kind of like a little bit back there, that was amazing.
So
I was so happy they took the time to do that. And then it was just the question of whose faith is better, because it was like, I mean, they did a lot of bad things, but they thought they were doing good things. And it just makes it's really, really interesting to understand the nature of how faith reflects on ether and how faith adapts to that kind of thing, and of course the presence of deities over time and how they received that, how they received all those prayers. You get to see the various versions. You got the, like you mentioned, Fist of Rolger, that faith being a little bit more better in light, but of course, unfortunately, in the demise of Alamigo. They didn't get to last very long, things like that. So it's just really interesting. They got to mention all of that in some way or another.
It's funny you bring up Dalamud, because a lot of people were asking me questions like, wait a minute, if the Dalamud moon is gone, does that mean the wolf will eventually disappear too? He's so cute, I don't want him to disappear.
If people stop believing. That's the thing.
I'm like, I mean, over a few thousand years, eventually, maybe, but then the story just straight up answered that for me.
Right.
Yeah. I like how he had his own seat at the table, and when the 13, when all they're all standing around the thing, there's a 13th spot just for the dog.
Right.
Oh, thank you, Menfina, for bringing your pet Dalamud. I like how she even thanks us. You can thank. I have you to thank for him. Thanks. It's like, that's not good. You don't understand, Menfina. That's not actually a good thing. She doesn't get it.
Even Halone remarks that she could tell exactly when the Orthodox Church became prominent in Ishgard society.
Yeah, because it's when she got jacked.
Yeah, she felt that huge surge of faith out of nowhere. She's like, what?
Yeah, I wish we had a little more time with them to track history, but maybe I don't think they'll ever visit that, because obviously we know they didn't always look like this, as they've said, their forms of shape. So I wonder what the faith did to them historically. I think there's maybe in Aglaia, there's a passing mention of somebody remembering, one of them remembering their previous form or iteration. I think that's when we first learned that it's changing. I think when you're going around Alamigo.
It's weird, because they said that the form that they're assuming happened over worship that took thousands of years and hundreds of thousands of people all believing and praying to the same idea. So it's hard to pin exactly what they may have looked like prior and when, more importantly. Though it can reasonably be assumed that they all kind of just looked like the Watcher at some point.
Yeah, originally they probably all looked like that, and
then eventually develop the traits that you have now.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's a good conclusion.
There's one side tangent I have in regards to 12 and in regards to just worship in general, because again we have 12, and now we've traveled to the first, and we have the void itself. Religion wasn't really, it was brought up in passing, but not on the scale of the source and the 12. The first, what do they have that's comparable? And as far as the void,
I can totally answer this one.
Oh god.
Mad Max and Void.
I got an answer for this one.
Okay.
So there's actually, and this is really funny because in order to get this information, it does require a couple side quests. And I'm talking about side quests, the kind of small stuff that people, really glance over. There's a couple of those, sightseeing logs, all the little small itty bitty information bits that you can gather does reference that back in the day, prior to the Flood of Light, there was a dominant faith known as the Church of the First Light. So in the first, they worship not entities but philosophical concepts, in the sense of they worshipped the light prior to the flood of light, and when it hit, that caused such a sort of, I want to say, existential realization that they could no longer pray to this concept because it was currently attacking them, and it was, they foresaw it as, in a sense, they foresaw it as a punishment because it was so attached to their faith. They worshipped the light, they believed in the light, and the light was attacking them. So that's why the name Sin Eater comes from, because it was in reference to that faith of the Church of the First Light. And then eventually we got to the point in history 100 years later where they start worshiping the darkness, and now we have the light, Knights Blessed and the Children of the Dark as the branches of that initial decision to change philosophical concepts and move away from the faith of the light to the faith of the darkness. But yeah, in the first, they don't believe in deities, but they believe in ethereal subtypes. But in the sense of grand, concepts that protect them and things like that. So,
yeah. That being said, since we know there was a Watcher on the 13th, worth at least assuming there's a Watcher on each of the moons.
Yes.
Right. That
would be fair to assume. Yes.
Yeah. I think he's doing okay over on the first. What's he doing now?
The Watcher on the first is looking down from the moon like, man, shit got weird for a second there.
I like to imagine he's looking at that Zodiac thing. He's just like, Shit. I'm just watching this. I'm not worrying about that. I do wonder what would have happened if the Flood of Light had, because the big difference with the 13th versus the first is the 13th was the darkness had nowhere to go, but if the first was completely covered in light and then Zodiark's ether got out, what happens then? I'd assume it would overwrite the Flood of Light. I'd assume Zodiark has more precedent over the stagnant energy of
well, I mean, at that point, you're measuring the strength of an entire planet against a fractured god.
Yeah. But Fractured God did destroy an entire other planet, so hence my concern. So, who knows?
Future plot devices.
Yeah, who knows? We'll worry about
There's
that.
5 more moons out there, so we'll see.
Yeah, let's go to all.
Koji, we got questions. Get on that.
Koji, I don't. Okay, listen, Koji's he's busy with stuff. Okay, let's ask Kate.
Right.
Ask Kate.
Kate, Oda.
Koji's got 16 to work on. That's that big old world over there now.
A man's
Are they
busy.
still working on stuff for 16?
There's a DLC.
They got DLCs, 2 DLCs coming.
Oh,
Nice.
We might learn about that soon. They said before end of year they wanted to say something, but we'll see.
We shall see.
Sly, where do you want to go next? I know we're still on the 12. There's still a lot to talk about 12-wise.
Where do we want to go next? I want to talk about Margaret a little bit. But,
We're not even done with her yet.
I know, but it's just a start, and just seeing how the researchers, how much red tape the researchers have to go through and everything.
It's really fun.
I
bureaucracy at its
seeing how much I hate
it. It humanizes them a little bit, because I'm like, they're just researchers in the background, except for the only time I really felt something was Moonbreeda's parents, and they were researchers.
Yeah.
I was like, oh god. But yeah. So do we want to go down the MSQ rabbit hole?
I mean, that is the main rabbit hole.
That is the big one.
We're not even done with it yet. But I think, the nice thing is we do technically have a point of finality.
We're 99% done with it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the next bit is not really part of our MSQ. It's part of Dawn Trails as far as we're concerned, you know? So that's, I'm sure this has been quite a trip for all of you. So as lore experts who used to really dissecting 14's lore with a sprinkle of Final Fantasy reference occasionally, this requires a bit of a cross-game understanding, I suppose, to get the full scope of what it is they're going for. Did you guys have any troubles with that, or displeased by it in any capacity?
I turned up to Final Fantasy 14 for the Final Fantasy 5 stuff. I'm fine.
I do have to say, there's two thoughts I have on that. The first one being, I do have to admit that I really enjoyed the significant amount of references, only because Final Fantasy IV was my first Final Fantasy, right? So to me, it was just connecting to that nostalgia. I saw the value of its references in the sense of, I remember that from 4. I remember doing that in 4. And there's so many. There's so many references to 4 that I think I was just kind of like on that nostalgia train for a good bit, just kind of like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. And just kind of fun facting everybody, hey, fun fact, did you know this is from 4?
I did that a lot.
I mean, at this point, everyone could make the guess, because it's like, let me guess, is that from 4? Yeah, how'd you know? But like, it was a really nice time in the sense of me having an opportunity to kind of connect my old references to this current reference, and just understanding how it all fits into pieces and seeing the changes. Because there were some significant changes made to the previous source material that, because I knew where it came from, I was able to recognize the change, and I was like, oh, so they did it this time around. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like the way they changed it this time, and things like that. But in that vein, I'm very, very, very aware that not everyone enjoyed the multiple references to 4 that were made. It was very extensive, and it kind of felt like we were just playing. My joke in stream was, I'm playing Final Fantasy 4 too, That was what I've been booting up. Now I'm loading into Final Fantasy 4 too.
No, you do. It's
No,
Final
there's already
Fantasy
been-
14, but you put parentheses around the 4. That's what you did. There you go.
There's already been a Final Fantasy 4-2. I'm gonna say this is a better one.
This is much
Right.
better than the after years, yes.
Yep.
Oh man.
No, yeah, better than the after years for sure. No mobile games required. But the thing that, and this is a discussion I had with a previous lore enthusiast named Rami Rain. She does the Koopabot stuff. So if you can actually ping Koopabot for lore stuff. And me and her were talking about it, and she said something really interesting. She said that from a business standpoint, right? This is, I'm not assuming I know anything about marketing, but from a business standpoint, she thinks that the idea of incorporating so many Final Fantasy IV references was a way to introduce new players into understanding that this is a Final Fantasy 14. Like Final Fantasy 14 is referencing previous Final Fantasies, that it is a Final Fantasy. And so it's like an opportunity for new players to connect easily because they recognize all the Final Fantasy IV references, right? We're leaving off of Endwalker that was supposed to be the capstone, is the completion point of the original story, right? So the suggestion was that instead of forcing people to have to figure out what was going on the past 10 years, here they are landing into a newfound adventure, finding out things about the game, and they're like, oh wow, all these 4 references, this must be a Final Fantasy. And it was a way to get new players in onto the ship that's going to lead into Dawn Trail, which is the second story, but the first new story in a long time, so that everyone joins kind of on the same page. And I thought that was a really interesting thought. I was like, obviously we can't confirm that because we're not asking Yoshi P himself, but the idea that the multiple 4 references was like a platform for new players to get into the Final Fantasy 14 boat, and then start back with their multiple references that they're usually known for, because it's theme park, like the theme park of Final Fantasy is supposed to be 14. I want to say, like, at least in my case, that makes a little sense. But then also, I am nostalgia blind, so I'm not the one to ask. It's like, did you hate those? No, I loved them. They're great. I love them because I love 4 was such a good game to me that I was enjoying all the references. But I did definitely point. If I was able to notice it, I know other people were able to notice it. There was a lot of 4.
Listen, there are more than I think even... There's one that I know a lot of people don't know about, and it's the Bahamut Mount. Now, it's not the mount itself. People have said to high
I
heavens
heard about that
it's the Final Fantasy IV Bahamut. However, where you find it on the moon is even a Final Fantasy IV reference. A, it's
That's
on
wild.
the moon, but B,
Right.
it's to the east of Zodiark's Hole in the Middle, which is where Bahamut's lair was relative to the lunar subterranean. in
That's
Final
awesome.
Fantasy.
Yeah,
very
so
cool.
they're making very strong
Yeah.
points.
Yeah.
And
Although
not to mention,
they do go into 14 lore in that quest,
Right.
Thankfully, so
we do have to say it did hit 30 years. So I think in a way they were kind of celebrating the huge achievement that 4 has had, 30th anniversary and all. So I think it was in a way, since Endwalker launched on a year that it was the 30th year, they wanted to go ahead and just use that as the base material, moving on into the next story that would be 14.
It does
which is
mean
Dawn
that
Trail.
it does mean that we skipped 5's 30th anniversary, though.
Oh, that is.
we got Omega
wow.
before. We're fine.
Yeah, right.
Yes, we did
We've
get Omega.
already been dealing with
Wait, Kryle's gonna be in the. There you go. There you
go.
There you go.
Galoof.
I'm happy again. Never mind.
oh, man. Well, I mean, coming off of everything he said, before I really dig my fingers into the Final Fantasy IV references, I will give credit where it's due. I've always found that the writers for Final Fantasy XIV have done an amazing job with kind of gently weaving aspects of other Final Fantasy games into the narrative. You had Final Fantasy III in ARR, you had Final Fantasy VIII in Shadowbringers, and of
We don't
course...
talk about that.
Okay. Any particular reason why?
You're talking about wait, Omega or
No,
I said Shadowbringers, not Stormblood.
Eden.
okay?
The Eden references, yeah.
Yeah, the Eden references in Final Fantasy, or it's Final
I thought you
Fantasy.
said Stormblood for a second. I was about to say, wait, no, we don't.
No.
We don't
Stormblood is
we don't talk about
Omega.
Omega.
We don't
No.
talk about Bloodsport. No.
No,
That's
Omega's
funny.
awkward. But so of course I wasn't surprised that Final Fantasy IV was the Endwalker expansion, not at all. But here comes the other shoe about to drop. I was not impressed with how it was woven this time, simply because if you look at like just the characters and the events, like from start to finish, a lot of the writing was super forced. And I felt like that wasn't... It didn't feel nearly as organic as some of the other references, and I'm like... is it because you came right off the heels of base Endwalker and you just felt like you had to get into it as quickly as possible? Or something? Because it just didn't feel... it could have been better. And again, I will give credit where it's due. I told myself, I will be able to forgive all of it so long as Zeromus isn't the mastermind behind everything, just like Final Fantasy IV. And to their credit, that's not what happened. Zeromus was not the mastermind; it was Golbez the whole time, which I'm glad for.
That's a better twist than Ford had.
Exactly. Right. So I was very happy that they didn't go the super obvious route. But like when you look at, for instance, let's start at the very beginning of that arc with Zero's introduction into the story. Observe how unique of a position she's in. Not only is she the only half Void Sent that we know, she's also the only Memoriate that we know. She's also only able to regain her prior form because of a crystal we were just so happened to be given before going into the Void, and a few other things. Like, as you can see, there's a lot of unique and seemingly completely disconnected circumstances that make her, quote-unquote, perfect for the story. And I'm just like, that's heavy-handed.
And she was Xenos' voice.
And she was
Xenos' avatar, yeah.
And honestly, that's the part that really irritates me the most, because until post-Endwalker, you have no clue that the Xenos' avatar even has like a story or a narrative. Every time you see the avatar, it just comes in, it attacks, and then disappears. If we saw even just one moment, one character moment at all, where maybe the avatar is resisting Xenos even slightly, I'd be like, okay, that's character setup. But that never happened.
I want to say it was... Yeah. To be fair, it was Xenos we're talking about. Like, how would she overpower that? Like, that's
that's to the point. Like, she wouldn't overpower him, but she would try to resist at least a little bit.
I want to say
ends in him murdering people, though.
She's already dead. What does she care?
Xenos just kills you. Don't disagree with Xenos. You just die. But I know there was a point. There was an interview. Someone had asked about it because when Xenos' avatar was introduced, it was Wally Endwalker. I mean, we were saying Reaper a long time ago because there's that, like, I remember people pointing out that tiny little piece of scythe. It was Mr.
I drew an outline around the entire thing.
The little tiny bit of scythe. Yeah. And they strung us along that whole patch cycle because it's like, oh hey, he's gonna pick a weapon, and then they did the whole thing where they covered up which weapon he picked, and you're like, come on. So we knew at some point that he was going to be associated with that new job from the predictions and the theories. But when they introduced his avatar, right, the avatar was the first one that was like, I mean, it was special design. There was something really significant to it, right? The hands over the eyes, things like that. And someone had asked about it. And I want to say it was like a 6.1 interview or something to that effect. And he was just like, we can't answer that question yet. And it was such an odd little thing I noticed. I was like, why can't you answer the question about Xenos' avatar? But it was like, he purposely omitted that and moved on to the next question, thus causing a lot of people. They also asked about Zodiarc's shards on the moon. Some people asked some really good questions. Yeah. And Yoshi's like, crap. We can't answer that. We can't answer that. Let's literally next 3 patches,
Yeah, like 14 is not an especially complicated game in all
and you
honesty.
can predict some things. You can predict
It's not that surprising that people can predict things because it's not tremendously hard to predict a lot of the time.
But
except for the clouds over Ilsabar, there's no excuse for that.
You said you were going to bring it up. You said it in pre-show.
Uncloudless Bard.
I knew it was
Hashtag
coming.
Uncloudless Bard.
Hashtag Uncloudless Bard. I want to see that in chat right now.
Oh my god.
I got the shirt.
Uncloud Elsa Bard. I know, and then I like the response that is just more clouds underneath.
Yeah,
Right.
That's my offer.
Now, Synodic, I wanna ask you because you just told me how you feel about the Final Fantasy IV story in particular, and how it was woven into the narrative. And I kind of like, it's fair, and I kind of agree with you because like I feel like it nearly overstated its welcome. Like one more patch and I would have been like completely done. But I want to draw the comparison to the overall story of the Void. And I pose this to all of you. How do you feel about the overall story of the Void? Because this is something we've been not just within Endwalker. This is something we've been dealing with since literally ARR and possibly before that, but with Diablos and whatnot.
Yeah. Before you answer that though, Sly, I know what would have been the kicker. I know what would have made you say it's overstayed its welcome, and something that could still make it overstay its welcome. If Zero, we found out her real name was Cecilia. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's
wow.
That's the kicker that would.
I would have been done.
Yeah.
I would have been so fucking done.
Man, that's so
I'm like,
funny.
I'm ready. I'm ready
still-
for
I'm
Dawn's
waiting
now.
for
Like,
it.
get me the fuck out of here,
That's
please.
I almost feel like they can maybe do that if they bring her back like an expansion later when things have cooled down a little.
Nope.
I remembered my first name.
I thought we were going to find out her
Shoot it
first
out.
name at some point when she finally woke up and was a paladin again, and it was like, nope.
Right.
So, but
That's so
honestly,
funny.
just going to answer your questions, like if I subtract the conveniences in the writing, like around Zero and stuff, I'll admit, I think the entire story of the 13th in general is very compelling. Like for instance, getting to learn more about the world as it was before its fall to darkness
so
through the elemental fiends was awesome. I loved that. And sure, is it that typical, like, Ascians leading people down their own path of self-destruction? Of course, that's what they do. But getting to see exactly how, and finally being able to more or less organize the events about what happened to that point now, actually, like, I love that, simply put. Because now we know... Because up to that point, we've had some characters... that are all like, oh, I feel responsible for what happened to the 13th. It's like, no, we for sure know who the final straw that broke the camel's back is now.
Right.
Golbez, you idiot.
It's like, you absolute fool.
Hey, he's good now. He figured it out. He's like, that last possible moment, he's like, wait, I'm bad. I should stop.
But,
Oh, maybe I'm the problem.
I do think it's funny, though,
will
that the one
free
who
us from
tempted
the
him
wheel.
was Egiorm, the Ascian we've already killed.
right.
Yeah. Well, we knew Iggy Yorm was responsible for that.
Yeah,
story.
they
That
mentioned
fucked me
Yeah,
up a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm like, really, Iggy? Iggy? That was the
Iggy was
one?
the problem.
Iggy was the
Iggy
one
was
that
the
tricked
problem.
you? Come on, bro.
And we did know that Egeon was involved. We just
Yeah.
didn't
Emmett
really have a
explained
context
that.
for it.
Yeah.
We
we
knew
didn't-
she was involved, but we didn't know she was the one that tricked Golbez. So
Mhm.
that was the big reveal.
That either says good things about Egeon or bad things about Golbez, and I think
Maybe
it might say
both.
both.
A little column A, little column B there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But no, honestly, like learning more about the 13th has been fascinating. Though I do have like my biggest gripe with that entire thing is the moving of Voidsent onto the source, killing them there, and for their essence to rejoin the source. My problem with that is twofold. Number one, you have lore dating back all the way back to ARR explaining that the source rejects essence of the void, which is why the Voidsent would go back to the 13th, and that constant cycle of death, rebirth, fighting for thousands of years happened. Now you're telling me that when a Voidsent is killed on the source, it stays on the source? That's a big bomb to drop without telling us how has the source been affected by this? How many souls have been transferred over? Why is there still so many Voidsent if they've been invading for thousands of years? Like, there's a lot of extra questions that comes with that revelation that were never touched upon. And that's my biggest, like, pin when it comes to that.
Yeah, I've been bringing that up ever since the Void stuff started coming back. Literally the same point. Sly will let you know. Because that's a big thing with the Mach series, the Shadows of Mach, is we can only permanently kill Diablos with the Nullstone.
Except that we didn't. Well, the entire point of the Nullstone was that we didn't kill him.
Yeah,
True.
it sent them back. It forced us send back. Yeah.
Super binge times 3.
Yeah, you just can't. Yeah, we already know. As far as we know, there's probably a family of Diablos. He's probably not the only one.
I mean, have you completed Zadnor?
Yeah.
Because there was that reference, and you're like,
the
wait a
Baj and
second.
Southern Front and stuff.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if he came back and then got stuck in the machine, and then or that was a previous version of him.
At this point, it's just easier to say there's more than one Diablos.
There's one, yeah, right. It's a title, not a name.
Diabolos' 1 year across all of A Realm Reborn through to Endwalker has sucked.
Yeah, his time bubble has been terrible.
He's all over the place.
Let's see, is he a second rung or third rung Void Son?
I think he's third, and Skothic is 2. I think.
Yeah,
Skahak was actually a first rung Void Son.
She is a first rung. Okay, so then he's probably
she and the Void
of Darkness are the biggest ones we've fought.
I'd have to check the Encyclopedia, and that's like 2 steps away from me.
See, that's the funny thing.
I mean, I got mine.
The Skahak we fight is actually a weaker version of her because of like the rituals they did.
Yeah. Chad says Diablos is the 4th rung.
He's too powerful for a 4th rung.
He's due for a promotion here.
I think that's what Diablos Hollow was. It was his promotion. I'd assume Hollow would be not first rung because it's a weakened Skothic, but I'd assume it's
So where would that put Ferdiad?
Ferdiad's like
I remember
5 or 6 or something. He's not very important.
Look, ask what
Ferdiad is third. Ferdiad says they said he's third. Yeah.
Here's the thing there though. Did they ask Ferdiad for that? Because I get the feeling that Ferdiad would
I'm first.
Ferdiad would troll and be all like, "Oh, I'm
the king of the
totally a
Void."
second rung Void Son."
Right.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Yeah, Void stuff is they got super inconsistent with that one thing was also my only complaint. Although then again, the big confusion is that what we knew about the Void in A Realm Reborn was told to us from the perspective of scholars in Eorzea.
Yes.
Who were frequently wrong.
That's the scapegoat.
Yeah.
It's true. Like you're entirely correct.
They didn't
It's
know.
not. It's uneducated. It could be uneducated information. But in the same breath, how are you going to open up that can of worms and not address any of the mess you just made on the floor? It's like, really?
Walks a spill soda.
Just call a
exactly. It's like some
session.
It's like some 5-year-old just walks in the room, looks you dead in the eyes, pours their drink on the floor, and just leaves.
Just call Koji a 5-year-old. I mean, it's way too tall to be 5 years old. I'm sorry, he's 1 year old. He's in a time bubble. My bad.
He's in a time bubble too.
Oh, and you said you had a second problem also, other than that.
Oh, yeah. So there's the time bubble. Not the time bubble. The whole Void Scent not making sense and stuff like that. But wait, I think that was my 2 things. The Void Scent not making sense and the story going bending over backwards to make room for characters like Zero to come out of nowhere. Yeah. So like for the most part, I love all the new lore we got on the 13th. I really, really do. And some of the adjustments made to the Final Fantasy IV references are fine. But I think part of the reason the other Final Fantasy game references worked so well is because they weren't exactly MSQ driven. Like, you gotta remember, the Crystal Tower wasn't originally MSQ. It was originally side content. And so, and it's like I said, it's content that didn't overstay its welcome because it was in, you did your thing, and then you leave.
Right.
That's it.
And
Until it became required.
and then Final Fantasy VIII references with Eden in Shadowbringers, you go over, kill some bosses, do your thing, and then you leave. And then and that's why Endwalker's the weird one, because not only are the Final Fantasy IV reference forced onto you, but they keep happening over and over and over again.
We are there for a hot damn minute.
Okay, Scribe, I have a question. It is a very short question, but I think you'll have a lot to say about it.
Let's hear it.
Shinryu and Omega.
Well, the Omega fights themselves were, again, side content. And the whole thing with Shinryu, that wasn't like a huge story thing. Like, did he pop up and go rawr? For sure. But, like, you gotta remember, Omega comes in, handedly kicks his ass, gets captured by Xenos, and then Xenos assumes his persona form, and then we kick his ass. So, like, I mean, Shinryu doesn't really stick around very long at all.
No.
Yeah, like I was just asking that because it immediately thought of like that's the other like big the big other Final Fantasy reference that doesn't like massively root itself in the game that we've got. Like, yeah, we fought the Knights of the Round, but it wasn't really like the Knights of the Round. Whereas, like when we fought Shinryu and Omega, that was a very big like look at the reference in the way that you're saying that the Force stuff has been. So it's like, yeah.
Honestly, if you never even did the Omega raids, like as far as you're concerned with the MSQ, you summon Omega, he kicks Shinryu's ass, and then he fucks off. That's literally all that happens with him in the MSQ.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because everything Omega after that is side content. Even the
and then later you find robot ghosts.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've always felt that Omega's actual raid series for the first 9 fights is premier. Don't do this ever again in terms of references because it's so.
They were very gratuitous.
Yeah, it's just like there's like a story,
like, is that X-Death?
And it's real, and he just made them real. So go fight. And I'm just like,
He heard some stories and he thought, "Oh, this would be a cool fanfic."
Yeah, literally, it's like a Final Fantasy fan was just like, "And I want to put that in the game." And that.
I've always been okay with Omega just because, like, I recognize that it's just like a big old excuse plot situation. It's just like it's not like they made a big story and it happens to involve all these references. It is straight up like. Okay, we want to do some 5 and 6 fights. Let's just make a story about a tournament arc, and like once I'm recognizing that and I'm judging it as that instead of as a more like quote unquote serious story like Eden, like I'm fine with that. It's succeeding at what it wants to do.
Here's my issue with Omega. It basically was cherry picking. Like,
yep.
It was like a Final Fantasy picture Mike right there. Picture him like I don't know.
I would never have picked Chatternook. Don't you put this on me.
Picture him 12 years old and he's like, yeah, let me put this here and this here and let's put Halicarnassus in and let's have her have tea and do some weird shit in the middle of the fight. That would be fun. And then let's stick in Air Force too. That'll be fun. How? I don't know. Like make it a mechanic. Like it just cherry picked like the most random. I wouldn't say the most random. I mean, to be fair, Chatternook was random.
Chatternook felt like they had an idea for a fight, and it's just like, okay, I really want to make this happen, rather than like they thought Chatternook was like the big highlight of 6.
Right.
That's also true for all the 5 references. Nobody would have picked Halicarnassus, Catastrophe, and Alt-Roy.
Yeah,
I would have picked Halicarnassus. I would not have picked Catastrophe.
Well, let's see. All the references we've done so far, we've definitely done Final Fantasy 1 with the Warrior of Light.
Chaos.
And Chaos, of course, and like Final Fantasy 3, Crystal Tower, Final Fantasy 4, Endwalker, 5 and 6 were in Omega raids. 7 doesn't really
weapons.
Weapon series. We can give it to them.
Also,
8,
the achievement name for Sephiroth is Veni Veni Venios. Can't ever forget.
Yeah.
Let's say Final Fantasy VIII was Eden with Shadowbringers. 9?
9.
hasn't
Ozma
had anything.
in
Ozma.
Baldastine's Arsenal.
Ozma is about it.
9 had
I'd
some
say.
added ones. It hasn't had a big thing of its own.
Oh, GG.
Yeah.
Technically, if you want to
Yeah,
get...
Again,
want
like,
to split
it has-
hairs.
like we
Yeah.
haven't had a 9 reference story. We've just had 9 references.
References.
Yeah,
Yeah.
music in the game. And
Final
things
Fantasy
like that.
X, we've definitely had that one Aeon. What's its name again?
Oh, Anima? Are you talking about
Anima. Yeah.
Yeah.
Animal.
And we also we were talking about it before the stream started. Bismarck is sin.
Yep.
If anyone asks, what if they added sin, they already did.
Sin that isn't ugly, but
Hey.
12. 12.
Oh my
yes,
God.
12 is the entire southern portion of Authored. I mean, we have a Dalmasca in the game.
the amount of people asking me if they're going to continue the Dalmasca story, it makes me sad.
Yeah, I'd like
They-
it, but they probably won't.
Final Fantasy 11, yeah, Final Fantasy 11 is
11's had a lot of scattered
The
little.
fir-
11 has had a
the
lot of
first token
subtle
choice,
references.
yeah.
Absolute
Like
virtue
it's not
is
direct.
subtle.
Very subtle.
I think the thing is once you get past 11 or 12, references will stop looking like a tailored love letter to the game and start looking like just reusing models and content that they already had lying around.
Funny
Right.
thing,
True.
Realm Reborn and Lightning Returns were developed simultaneously, so they do
Yes,
share
they were.
models with each
Okay.
other. Yeah, there are some models that were in Lightning Returns before 14 and some that were in 14 before Lightning Returns just because of applicable use times.
So,
I did not know that. That's actually really cool.
But yeah, that's kind of
So-
why we probably won't get 15 or 16 big references, at least not for a long
Right.
time.
I mean, we did get those side quests with 15 and 13.
Yeah, we got
But
those
the-
for events, and that's the okay space
Yeah.
for that because we
Mhm.
all kind of recognize that events are lower effort, but in
I
terms
wonder
of
if the
big-
director of 14 and 16 will be able to agree on a
They
collab
already
together.
said they did.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well,
I hear the director of 16 is pretty demanding.
yeah, I heard the director of 14
So-
might not like the 16 director.
Oh my god. So this begs going down this line of thinking, this begs the question, are we ever going to get Fabula Nova Crystallis references?
Stop.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah, I feel again because of the fact that it would look a little lazy. We're not going to get that unless they add in things that aren't just a reused model. I believe that within all of the 13 stuff, Etro was never a boss fight, so maybe Etro
Right.
can be a boss fight in 14.
Let me tell you, I've been down this road. If they start doing anything other than the hairstyles for the Type 0 characters, you're going to regret asking that question. Because once
Yeah.
they start referencing
Please
Type 0,
bring in Type
they
0.
never stop. They just
Please.
do it over
Please.
and over again.
Please.
Please reference Type
Please.
0 once, and then everyone is
Please.
scarred for life, and we don't want, and we never want to.
No,
touch
no,
again.
no,
Type 0 is
no.
terrifying.
I mean, to be fair, the Bosnia mounts were from Type 0.
Yeah.
The Hellraisers and things like that.
I'm
Yeah.
saying this as someone who likes
Yeah,
Type 0.
Gabriel's.
It's just
Mhm.
Type 0 is a much heavier storyline than people expect it to be.
Right.
That's
So
my
it's-
favorite.
That means, yeah, for people who haven't watched the opening scene, literally go watch that and you can stop right there.
Yes.
No, see, the next big
I
Final
wouldn't say
Fantasy
stop.
reference
Guys,
is
play
gonna be...
the whole damn thing.
No.
Seriously, play the whole damn thing. Seriously,
Mhm.
if you thought that it gets it, the ending.
The next big
Yeah.
reference we're getting is Crystal Chronicles.
Oh wow, Mystic Quest.
I
Dude.
don't even think Crystal Chronicles wants to reference Crystal Chronicles.
I want to see the game try to reference
Nice.
Mystic Quest. Yeah.
Is that when the chainsaw job comes out?
Oh wow. Oh man.
God, that reminds me of, I think it's Final Fantasy Adventure has mutant as a race, so Teenage
Oh,
Mutant Ninja
yeah.
Turtles.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking about that too. The Esper.
Oh
Esper job
man,
they
the
had
amount of
back
people
then.
saying that
Yeah,
Remage is the
Esper's-
new job because of that 3-leaf clover.
Yeah, the clover. Yeah.
You mean green?
So, are we really gonna have this discussion?
No.
Are we gonna have this
I
discussion?
just
Are we
said
gonna, are we
no,
gonna
Sly.
open
Why are
this
you
can of
asking
worms?
again?
Okay.
I just said that.
Okay.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. So yeah, that was a big rabbit hole we're going down.
We knew what we were getting into.
Yeah.
That's
Speaking
funny.
of speculation,
No. No.
Oh boy. Oh
No.
boy.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
she's got legs and she knows how to use them.
Oh my goodness.
And if you're paying attention to the data mining, she doesn't have much else.
It's literally
No.
just legs. They
Just legs.
I am
knew we were gonna
so proud of the
They knew we were
development
gonna
staff for
look.
doing that.
It's very funny.
how do you
I'm
animate
so
just a pair of
proud.
legs? Like
I'd imagine it's about
genius.
half the work.
yeah.
But
Very true, very true.
Sly like that. Sly like
People,
that.
people have like been able to figure out a little bit more. Like, I'm not into data
That's
mining enough to
amazing.
like confirm this firsthand, but from what I've heard, it's like there is a space. There is like a tail hole in that in those leg models.
And that's not a button.
So
So are we under the assumption that it's female runs?
It's female Rothgar. It's
Yeah, I
female
don't think
Rothgar.
anyone was
That's-
ever under any sort of other.
The moment they said that Yakta has a population of Rothgar, I was like, this is the
Yeah.
time to do it, Square. If you don't do it now, you're fool.
I was doubting it until I found out about like the tail hole in the
tail hole,
model, and it's
yeah.
like, okay, they know what they're doing.
Yep. Stringing us along, but good, very, very good job with the string.
How
That was a very
typical of the
good song.
internet to discuss the nature of a hole.
And feet. And feet.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
furry feet. That.
And people are, and I love that people are trying to figure out like what female Ronto is going to look like. We know what it like. Okay, if you dig back deep enough, you would know
Right.
what female Ronto looks like.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have mosaics.
Providing they're being accurate.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy X, there was a female player in the Ronto Fangs.
There's a
Nice.
lot of female Ronsos in 10, but I mean, it's not a one-to-one. Some of the Hrothgar appearances are nearly identical. You can make Kamari
Right.
something very close to Kamari very easily.
Not to mention our
Yeah.
Hrothgar have scoliosis compared to the
Yeah.
It's the muscle mass. They're beefy.
oh, they're just too jacked.
It's
They
just
have to
so
hunch
it makes
over.
their backs bend.
Oh,
Hrothgar and
hurting my
Apocryphal
back with how
Bahamut
manly I am.
might
It's,
be
it's
related.
actually not related. It's actually not related to the muscles. It's just related to the fact that, like, Bosnia also had a large population of Lalafels, so they're all just hunched from having to talk to all of them.
Oh, yep.
Makes me think of the Asahi cutscene back in Stormblood, where if he wants to talk to you, he has to, when he wants to whisper in your ear, he has
Kneel
to kneel
down.
down. He's like, "Hey."
Yeah.
Right.
All I know is that if the female Hrothgar like have perfectly straight backs, comparatively,
I think they
people are going to
will.
lose their minds.
I feel like they will because they're they only talk to people. I mean, and again, they only talk to people beneath them because that's the big thing. Is Hrothgar are matriarchal? So as soon as they said there were
Yeah.
Hrothgar civilizations, there has to be a woman in charge of every single one. That's like the core of Hrothgar civilization.
That's where their names come from and everything. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's I
the moon with
I
rotating
actually
all over again.
I think they are gonna look like the stronger of the two races to boot. I know some people are afraid they're gonna outraw them and make them
Right.
the big burly
I don't
ones.
think they-
I don't think
yeah,
they
I don't
will
think
either.
they'll
I
do
don't
that.
think they would because they've already done it.
No.
Right.
Yeah, like and they actually did like with like the male and female Viera. It's not major. It's like very subtle, but like yeah, the males are the smaller of the two on that.
Yeah, they
one.
are shorter than the females.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good.
Also, I assume we're going to be.
Don't shake your head at me like that, Sly.
We're going to speculate about like the clover now, aren't we?
The
I mean, it was
Clover
a
didn't
hint.
want to.
It was a
there's
hint.
there's no lore behind it yet because there's nothing.
Yeah.
You can only look at other games, so it's like, yes, Green Mage has a 3-leaf clover as its job symbol, so has to be on people's
Sometimes,
minds.
yeah.
What if it's Pictomancer?
Yeah, there's, still
You
that.
know, it's funny you bring that up because I was just thinking about that the other day because of the new Criterion dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then on top of that, clovers are a symbol of luck. So people think
Right.
it has something to do with Corsair/Gambler, which I don't think they'll ever call it that. So yeah, there's
Okay, to
They're
be
all
fair,
out
the
there.
only reason people are saying Corsair is because of like the
trailer.
Warrior of Light on the High Seas. Like
Yeah.
that's it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
If we go ahead.
I'm a little I'm a little doubtful of like my logic holding up on this. That there was a thought that I've had the entire time we've known that like Kral was going to be a big deal in the new expansion and probably get a new job, and it's the notion that you can't give Kral Baldessian, daughter of Galuf Baldessian, a new job and not have it be one that was in Final Fantasy V.
Right.
And like, I think they reasonably are probably going to give her something that wasn't in Final Fantasy V, but it's all, but yeah, I was just thinking like, it'd be a real missed trick to like give her anything that debuted afterwards. This is Krile.
Right.
She's gonna be a Viking. That's a job from Final Fantasy V.
No, that was in 3.
That's true. Yeah, it's
Oh
not
my
in 5.
God.
Yeah. Berserker's in 5.
Yes,
Oh,
Trial
works.
Berserker.
Oh my god.
Oh my
that'd be
We've already
Yeah.
fought a
great.
berserker once, so.
It's funny because Krile admits like, oh, I've never been good at offensive magic, but I'm damn good with this axe though.
That logic checks.
Love it.
There you go.
but Cleretic, going off of what you said, seeing how like like the only image in my mind when I think of Corsair is just all of Ottergon, and like and I already told Mike, if they somehow throw in Salahim Sentinels,
Stop.
Oh boy.
I'm going to lose. I'm to literally give up the game. Like I'm sorry.
Oh, that's funny.
Ottergon was okay, but I just hate Naja Salahim with like a undying passion. I can't stand that bitch. I cannot stand her.
Someone said Necromancer. Look, my guy, I'm sorry. I just don't see Necromancer being a playable job in Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
look,
Yoshida thinks necromancy is evil, so we can't.
So
I
do
don't want to be an evil. There's no such thing as a non-evil necromancer.
So here's that's the thing. In Final Fantasy lore, it goes out of its way to say that like you're literally torturing souls. You're committing acts of vile sin to be a necromancer.
Right.
Also, in Final Fantasy XIV, necromancers don't have the greatest like success record.
Oh no!
Most
Every
of them
single one of
suck at
them.
it.
Every single one of them.
You mean
has
you don't want
been
Edda to be our job?
Edda, Nebeth, Hope the Lord. Like, I mean-
Nebeth Obdulord is probably like the most likely one to actually not suck at their job.
yeah, yeah. And and they literally pulled the exact same person from Tactics Ogre. It's not a reference. It's the same person.
It's the same
He just
dude.
shows
I
up
love
in
it.
14.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is nice. I guess I'm gonna keep doing what I did over there.
I know.
Besides-
Yeah.
I've already
I-
played Necromancer in 14. Every time I do an alliance raid, I have to res all the zombies, and then they
Oh my
keep dying, and I have to res them again. So I know exactly what it's like to play Necromancer already, and I can tell you,
Right.
still
Wait,
a very
but if
evil,
you-
still a very evil.
If they're
job.
undead and you tried to res them, wouldn't that automatically kill
No, they
them?
die again. They go from undead to dead again, and then I res them again. Like they
Yeah.
die, I make them undead, but then they
okay.
die, and then I try to. Yeah, so it's just like a constant cycle of
So,
undeath.
so chat said something funny, Sly. Jumping back real quick, said that you don't want the female Rothgar to be Naja Salahim.
No. No. And it's just like I'm trying like when I heard the voice the first time and like when we were at FanFest, I'm like,
So,
I'm trying to picture like Naja like actually talking. I'm like, no, that can't be.
oh wow.
Nah. I'm tripping. I'm tripping balls out here. Nah, I can't. Nah, fam.
Those are the legs of Naja Salim.
Oh my god.
The legs.
So funny.
That's just the Sala part. We'll get the rest
That's
later.
so funny.
I hate you.
Don't worry. I'll finish the other
Brand
half
new
of that
job,
joke
legs
later.
for days.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a little fleet-footed with some of these references. That's fine.
Hey.
No, you're just keeping us on our toes.
Yeah. I usually have a leg up on Sly when it comes to these kind of things. So.
Okay. I'm going to get ice. I'll be back. You handle the show.
I think we went a foot too far. That was a little bit.
Oh man.
That was much. You didn't like that one. I know you didn't like that one. Yeah, so one thing that I'm very curious about that is not feet related, shockingly, is so regarding the Void. They went through a lot of effort this patch specifically to give us kind of, I mean, into that entire expansion to finally give us some more definitive information about it. But around that definitive information, there have been, at this point, 4 different quests that have dealt with void-related creatures. One of them, tangentially, they just kind of got involved because it happened to be the Void. And the other 3 all converging now, if you've actually done all the quests. You have Unakalhai, who was a child, not old enough to become a Memoriate or anything, from the 13th. He was saved by Elidibus. And he was brought to the... Actually, Elidibus saves the source, in a sense. I mean, with Unakalhai. Yeah. It's a thing to think about. Elidibus did make Unakalhai one of our representative to save the source, because he knows the 13th. He doesn't want that. You don't want that.
Right.
Yeah.
He'll take credit for that being a good thing. I don't think Elidibus intended to do that.
He knew there had to be a balance. That's the thing. It's very important to know that Elidibus, among all the other Ascians, was specifically committed to the idea of balance. So Elidibus did help us in a way, because he would switch roles depending on what was required to maintain the balance. And that's why, with the white robes and like all the other Ascians kind of didn't really vibe with him well, because he sometimes would help them, and then sometimes they'd see him on the other side being like, yo, what are you doing? You're a warrior of light now? Homie, you're supposed to be helping us? And he's like, it's all for the balance. It's all for the balance. So.
It's true, because like after what happened with the 13th, even, like all the Ascians were like, yeah, we don't want that to happen again.
Right.
Whoops.
So Elidibus was balance focused. So he did help us with the Warring Triad, but he was also messing us up in other places.
Yes.
So it really depended on the scenario and what type of ether was required at the time.
I would generally say Elidibus caused us more harm than good, but
yeah, for sure.
Tangentially, yeah.
Enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of vibe.
He did not balance that part of him.
Yeah, he just kept every single play he made was like, you're a warrior of light. I've got warrior of darkness. Oh, you're the warrior of darkness now. I'm the warrior of light.
I'm a warrior of light.
Dude, come up with a different plan for once.
Swap it.
That's all he knew how to do the entire time.
Right.
Finally, we fight him, and he's both. We fight him again.
Elidibus is all like, I got the perfect plan. I'm going to awaken a lot of people to the Echo, and that way Heidelin tries to play favorites.
More like. Yep.
What
I like that your image of Elidibus is like slightly drunk.
Look, he's been around for thousands of years. He was a child. Like, I mean...
I don't think he was a child. I think he was just like he was like Alphanos.
He was the youngest of the convocation.
The youngest of the convocation,
Yeah, he can legally drink. He
can legally drink, but it's that thing
he
of
just
like
turned 21.
If you got like a group of people together, no matter how old the youngest person is, they will call them baby.
Yes, which
Yeah.
that's literally what Emmett Selk was doing in that one short story.
No, exactly. So
it's all right. He's a pretty boy. He's got a future. Well, technically not anymore, but you know.
Well,
Oh.
He's got a future. Not if we had anything to
He's
say about it.
sleeping.
But
Oh
Sleeping
man,
now.
speaking of Elidibus, the entire thing in Pandemonium, that's another continuity error that I...
oh no.
Which one?
Oh, the one where what's her face? Athena just so happens to quote unquote find Elidibus's soul in the ethereal realm of the source, which is impossible for two reasons. Number one, his soul was still in the Crystal Tower.
I think
And two, even if it wasn't in the Crystal Tower, it would have joined the ethereal realm of the first.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing where it's like they can square that, they can make that that makes sense. They just didn't.
Right.
14 is guilty of that a lot, though, and it irritates me.
It's not hard to make that. It's not hard to make that make sense, but we shouldn't turn like it's not hard to make that make sense into that just makes sense. And yeah,
Right.
No, yeah. So, though I could go on about the errors in Pandemonium, and I won't, because that's an entire breadbasket.
yeah. I think Pandemonium like stands up pretty well. Other than that,
Don't worry. If
That's a
you get
different-
a
that's a
little too
different
crazy
conversation.
about it, we'll find you some special cells.
I hate that mechanic so much. It's currently messing me up. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Oh, there you go. And so that's element number one. Element number two, I didn't think they would do it. I was celebrating it last week. Gaia actually being an MSQ if you've done Eden. I thought for certain they set it up at the end of Eden. They were like, she's like, you know what? I can probably still tap into my Ascian powers. I could probably travel between shards if I stopped and figured out how to do it. I am still the Oracle of Darkness. All that stuff. She's like, I'm useful. And then they're just like, so we're going to go over here and talk to these people about the Void instead. Does that sound cool? Good? Yeah? Yeah, great. All right, see you later. No, they...
I will say, I am glad that the MSQ essentially canonized both Gaia and Unakalhai's stories.
Right.
Like, if you did all that stuff with Unakalhai and bringing him over to the first, they reference him. And now they also reference Gaia. So, knowing that, like, the MSQ has said, yes, those events did for sure happen, makes me happy.
yeah.
Yeah, that was my greatest joy. And I'm just glad that they managed to imagine you're a voice actor. You're only used for like 10 lines total, I guess, between between E8 and like E12.
Yeah.
I guess more than that, because she also
It's actually
voices
very.
Eden's Promise.
It's
Like Eden's Promise itself is also Gaia's voice actor.
Yeah,
So.
it's also it is kind of surprising they brought in a voice actor for
From
Gaia
instances,
during
yeah.
Eden, where it's like, yeah, she didn't have a whole lot of lines, but it's just like, I mean, they did it, and it pays off now.
Yeah,
Oh,
because then
man.
she just gets a return and record. There are a lot of people who just forgot she even spoke in E8, and like they were like, "Oh my goodness!" So that's what she sounds like. I was like,
That's a similar sort of thing to when a Sid spoke in I think like 5.4, and it's like we hadn't heard like his post-Realm Reborn voice actor since like sometime in Heaven's Ward, so it's just like we all kind of thought that was a new actor. No, it's the same dude.
"Just been."
Speaking
while.
of voice acting and that kind of stuff, I always found it. I was always like wishing for more, I guess is the best way to say it, because look at the 12 raid. We just finished talking about that, and you get to hear like their cool lines of dialogue mid-fight and stuff. And I thought to myself, like, you already have them in the recording booth. Could you not get them to do like a few more lines for the out of raid scenes?
Don't know what like the logistical thing is there, because like we had.
I wonder
we
if
had
it's a
big
budget
voice
No,
thing.
I know. It's probably a studio thing and red tape and whatever. But I still think to myself, like, you already got them there, though.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm sure there's a reason. I just want to know what the reason is. Like, tell me.
Yeah, I agree.
Just
I agree.
tell
I feel like if there was ever any like time to kind of splurge on a budget and start including voices in the 24-man story, this would have been it. Like this is probably the best one to start with.
It was a big one. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because they had good voice actors too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there was a single member of the 12 that I didn't like.
Yeah,
I mean, some of them we knew, Estinian being Ralger, and I think Hien is not Thaliak. I think he's Ashan. I can't remember.
So Bob the Builder's been made to yield.
I do know that like Nold and Thal have like distinct voices that have already been around.
Isn't one of them
no one knows who they are. Isn't
one of them Graha?
I've heard that theory.
Yeah. Somebody said that. I remember someone mentioned Thal is supposed to be one of them, or one of the twins is supposed to be.
Ashan is Joshua's, I think. That's right. Joshua from 16 is Ashan.
That makes some sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because we don't have like confirmed voices for Nold Thal, except for knowing that they are that it's like a voice actor that's already in the cast. I've heard a bunch of guesses, and no one quite seems to entirely agree. Like I've seen an assumption of like Emmett Selkenhith the Dias on that one.
Right. Hey, we got credits next year. They're gonna drop the credit reel so we can figure it out.
They will. So we'll actually know that. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to find out.
Good.
I was gonna say I can't wait to find out if they do, because it's kind of hard to tell if all of the voice actors do Eulogia's lines.
Yeah.
That feels like it would be a very difficult prospect.
I mean, so is designing that fucking thing, and they did that somehow. Cosplayers
I don't know if that
was busy.
Cosplayers are absolute
that was just a blend.
Good luck. Good luck to the cosplayer that tries.
You know for sure though. There's at least one cosplayer out there that's like,
someone's gonna do it. Someone's gonna do it.
Like, well, time to get ready for the next fan fest.
Time to
I know someone's gonna do it.
I have seen like a Lakshmi dress, so it's like, I mean, it's gonna be more work than that, but it's like that solves a lot of the same problems. So,
right.
I just feel like with that Square channel, like they channeled a little bit of Platinum Games there. So,
I can see it.
So yeah.
God damn. But yeah,
they definitely channeled that part of like certain kinds of depictions of religion of religious figures that are like a bit too much.
Honestly, I wasn't even expecting Eulogia. I thought it was going to be like a.
That was a good reveal, though. It
was very cool, and I did like a bit of like Greek etymology on that one. That eulogia. Obviously, that's the root word for eulogy. It also like more literally means a blessing.
Yeah,
and also they're like attack before like doing the doing the one.
Eudaimonia, yeah. That was amazing.
That's and like eudaimon translates to like joy, but it's like a spiritual joy that we don't have a specific word for.
Yeah, the good demon kind of thing.
Yeah, so that word basically means like that attack basically means like the joy of Eorzea, which is a very nice name for it.
That did make me tear up a bit, I think. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did cry. I cried really hard at the end.
So did I, but I have a weakness for sad animals.
Ook.
Yep, exactly. That's what killed me.
It was the poor monkey.
I don't care about the gods. I care about the sad monkey.
Nobody picked him up. The whole time he was sad, no one picked him up. What was that? Why did no one pick up the monkey and pet him? I swear. Like they've never had pets before.
Because off screen, every time someone tried to pet him, he hissed.
That was me at the vet yesterday. So yeah, not me. Like I wasn't the one hissing, clearly. But
you were hissing at the vet, man.
Mr. Happy went to the vet.
Who's trying to take my temperature? I was like, I'm not here for that. My cat's here for that. Why are both of your hands on my shoulders? Anyway. That's a classic joke. Anyway, so my big takeaway from all of the entire Endwalker and with the Void is that they've now put all the pieces into place. The Void's always felt kind of like a bunch of fragmented stories.
Yeah.
And at this point, they wrapped all of that up and put all the pieces in place. The problem is if they ever want to do anything in the future, something's changing because there's no chance they expect you to do all of Unokalhai's quests to do the MSQ at any fucking point. There's no way.
That might be time for like a field operations thing like that. That might be like a future boss.
Yes, bring all the people that want Bosnia back. That would be an awesome return of the Bosnia aesthetic. Is hey, we're going to the Void to help clean up things, and you bring in Unokalhai and Ciela and all the people because they have all these like small little plot lines that I don't know. I was under the impression they just completely forgot about the Void quests because it happened, and then it just nothing. And now we're going to the Void, but with different people, and I'm like, why is Unokalhai not here? And why do I only the only way to know that he's aware of it is you have to go to him and tell him, hey, I went to the Void. And he's like, what? You did? And I'm like, bro,
to be fair, I said
it with us. What are you doing? Take him with us.
Yeah,
he needs to be there.
I said it last week. Unokalhai is our oldest example of every patch I have to go talk to this person because
every time. You have to because it changes every time too.
Yeah, he's one of the most him and the Mama Aura, Grandma Aura are the two that for the longest time you had to go back and visit every single patch.
And check it.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the last one.
She changes. I want to say the last time I spoke to her was because she did mention about when they were giving hints that we were about to become villains in Shadowbringers. She was like, I sense a darkness amidst your radiance. Pray I'm just, misseeing things. And that was a really interesting entry point because you're like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And then of course the whole thing about us becoming technically the villain of the first in order to save it. Yeah, I was like, that's a really cool reference. Yeah, Temulun. Yeah, Temulun has some prophetic visions of the future of the MSQs and things like that.
I should really go back and see if she's changed. I haven't checked in a long time.
Right. Yeah.
Honestly, going off of all of that, I thought it was interesting. If you talk to Silva and tell her that you met Zero, she'll be all like, "Really? You've met a living Memoriate? I used to be a Memoriate.
I know.
I lost my powers."
That part felt weird to me.
It did feel weird
because I was down with the whole Shadowkeeper thing. It was really cool to see that they officially used all the models from the 1.0 trailer, right? Because we had, the Rogadin, we had the Hume, the person that was known as Derplander became Ardbert's official person, and then all that stuff with that. But they didn't use the elf, right? I mean, a lot of people were asking about that. They're like, who's this person? Who's the Gladiator? And then when she shows up in the role quest, I was like, oh, the Leonardo meme. I was like, oh, it's her. They're using her. And I thought that was super cool. And then not only that, they incorporated this whole concept of her being the Shadowkeeper. She was doing all this things behind the scenes. She was encouraging the Warriors of Light to become more and more powerful by creating instances that would lead them to become more and more powerful so they could kill her. Because as she was like, yeah, if you beat me, then then we're good and we get the shard fixed. And they didn't want to. They were like, no, we're not going to kill you because we love you. And she's like, oh. But that whole point, that was such a good story, and I liked it so much when I was introduced to it. But the moment I spoke to her and she's like, I used to be a Memoriate too. I'm like, you were a Memoriate before it was cool? Is that what that was supposed to be? You're
honestly, it would have been made a lot more sense for her to just say, "Oh, I remember the Memoriates."
Yeah.
And if they just left it at that, it would have been fine.
Shoehorn her in. That's the word I think is shoehorn her into that original concept. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that doesn't make. I don't know. I didn't really vibe with it, but I saw what they were trying to do.
It also doesn't make sense for her to just lose all of those abilities with no explanation.
Yeah. Right.
She just didn't want it anymore. She's like,
she didn't want it anymore.
I don't like this.
Well, I
want to be a big darkness.
It can happen.
But
all the same, I've been waiting for the Void stuff to just come full circle, but it won't for a very long time. If at all,
we're still waiting for some points.
It will make sense if in the future, let's say we still have Void Sent issues. These are Void Sent that haven't consigned to Zero's and Golbez's vision for the 13th yet. They're I don't see all the Void Sent suddenly being all yup, let's save our world.
And of course,
Oh,
they
real
can't
quick.
like completely fix the 13th because then Reaper gets fucked. So
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean
by
that's
the
like
way,
the first.
sorry.
You know.
Sorry to Sly if you're being spoiled at all. The chat says you haven't. Like, you,
I do not mind. Yeah, like.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
no, I told them you
Yeah,
abandoned that chance.
Happy
Yeah.
bitching me to go do the void.
someone mentioned it in chat, and I was like,
Void quest,
"Oh
the World
shoot,
quest.
I didn't even
No,
think
don't
about
Don't
that."
worry about it. Like
You
told them.
invited a bunch of lore keepers onto your
Yeah.
show. You knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, this
We've
is a
also
youth
talked
yeah,
problem.
about Silva and everything when
Right.
in old shit,
Right.
regardless.
I'm sorry for spoilers. It was-
you're fine.
You still need to go do it, Sly, or you won't be able
Yes,
to do
still do
MSQ.
it. There are some
You need
there's
the
a lot of good-
experience.
In the process of doing it. Yes.
Yeah, how will you do the Void Walker MSQ when it eventually comes out?
right?
Oh god, don't make the Void
Void
quest
Walker.
like MSQ
Void
mandatory.
Walker,
That's
that's so
gonna
funny.
kill the game.
Like I said, they'll just take all the prereqs out and just like make it so you have to do Warring Triad and then like cut out everything else.
That's funny.
Just
Yeah.
cut out all the role quests and just be like, listen, if you did them, cool. But if not, listen, they're all here. The little boy got saved. We don't know how. You know, he's been trapped in the rift for 100 years. Nobody cares. Just here.
Maybe that
Right.
Unakel has been referenced. We can finally go back to the conference room at the Rising Stones.
Oh my
I
goodness.
felt so bad for him just standing in there. Every patch, he's just like,
He was there for what? 2 whole expansions. Like he's just stood there for.
yeah, all of having
You're
to
like,
work.
what do you mean,
He
buddy?
didn't get to leave till the end of Shadowbringers if you did all the role quests.
For I think 5 whole years, he was made to sit there with his arms crossed against the table.
I
5 whole years in 1 year, yeah.
I think in one of the MSQs they even make mention of him being in there at some point. I think there's an NPC that just mentions Unakalhai's in that room or something.
Yeah,
Right.
he's still in there, which is why we don't go in there.
It just raises the question of like, what's he doing in there this whole time? Is he
Come on, you know what
Right.
he's doing in there.
Yeah,
He's-
studying.
brooding?
Yeah,
He's brooding. Yeah. Hey, the person that helped him was Urianger. He was just following his examples, standing in the corner with the lean game.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and every time you speak to him, he has to do the animation to get off the lean. So you're like, oh my god, I don't need this to take 3 seconds longer. Every time, my dude, just stand up, please, or stay sitting. I don't need you to stand up. I'm taller. I'm not taller, but half the people are taller than you anyway. And if I'm a Lalafell, I'm shorter. You're better off with the lean. Either way, 6.5's MSQ just kind of starting up, but there is one exciting prospect that I think you all might have some commentary on. Not for the first time in a long time. I guess that's incorrect. But a place that we've wondered about for a long time is about to become the centerpiece of an entire new lore operation. And that's
It's gonna be
Tural.
so fun. Tural, I love it.
Are there
I like that it's got a new name that isn't like slightly too colonialist to be comfortable with.
Right. Yeah,
Hey, listen,
yeah, we do.
The Blue Mage quest might have sent it that way if the Blue Mage quest had gone a little too long.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
that was a lot. The Blue Mage quest made me nervous. I was getting nervous. I was
In
like,
fact-
please, Square, don't make this lore, please.
in fairness, Martin is an idiot. So
Yes.
Fair.
Also,
Martin
in
would
lore.
absolutely call it.
I mean, I wouldn't be
wrong name to do it.
surprised. They straight up made Hingashi isolationist era Japan. I mean, that's
The-
straight ripped from our history.
Right.
Yeah,
The
that's
important,
like,
the important thing is a cure was found, so we're not replicating the colonial era. we
Yeah,
essentially averted it.
I wonder if they're going to make us
recognized
vaccinate.
they did bad and they're
before we
doing
go
right.
over
That's
there.
Oh my goodness.
Like I do wonder how they're going to handle because since that was
They were-
already a problem once, I can't imagine us just going there. Just
This massive adventurers showing up. It's like, no, hold up. Wait, no, you stay here. We need to make sure that
No,
you're
we've
good
got-
to go before you go into Yakta El.
That's what Green
We've
Mage
got our
will
own
be for. Green
adventuring
Mage will
union.
be what they send us to the Green Mage Guild when we get
Green
there.
Mage cures all the disease. Yeah.
Exactly. They prepare us for the life there. You know.
I like that idea.
They put
The
a fish on our
Eorzea
head and
pox.
recite a
Oh
chant.
my gosh.
the Eorzea pox. Yeah, they make sure we don't spread Eorzea pox all over there. There you go.
But no. Chat's right. The way to cleanse it is with the infamous Mamulja dance.
Oh yes. I wonder if that's going to come up at all. That's going to be interesting. whole
That
quest
entire cutscene was amazing. All the dancer
Wow.
girls are like horrified. Meanwhile, you have
Running
the little
away,
Wallapel
yo.
going, "Yeah,
yeah, this is awesome.
this is great."
And it is Gegeruju. I mean, his tastes are
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fair.
We've had to deal with him before.
Oh my god, so
Yep.
funny.
But is there anything in particular, given that we know at least a general idea? Obviously, these are the Americas, specifically where we're going. There's a lot of Incan architecture and stuff like that, and draws from Middle America, Golden City, all that stuff. So, is there any particular element you're looking to explore? Something that we know about the New World that we haven't actually.
Croatoan's looking forward to the barbecue.
The barbecue.
Sly's
Thank
looking
you
forward
so
to the
much for
barbecue,
opening
too, yeah.
that. That was awesome. Thank you, Synodic. So, in explanation, there is 2 lines of text that you get from doing Studium quests, and this one's particularly towards the Weaver one with the Astrologian, a faculty of astrology. You find out there is a chain of islands, an archipelago off the coast of Doral that essentially invented barbecue, right? And so this NPC is introducing it to you and to his friend Jude. He's like, "You never heard of barbecue before? It comes from the New World." And
Oh yeah, I remember that part.
that part resonated with me. And mainly, this is genuinely just a personal thing. My mom is from Trinidad. My mom is Caribbean, and barbecue originated in the Caribbean. So I'm like, hold on, are they putting the Caribbean in Final Fantasy 14? And I was all over it. So if they do introduce the island chain that barbecue is from, or if we just get barbecue in the game overall and it's said, hey, it's from these islands, I literally have a analog reference to where my mom comes from. So that's super cool. And yeah, the barbacoa, I was super stoked to hear that. And I was like, among many things to look forward to, I mentioned it on, I got to do a panel at LunarCon about all the references into it all. And one of the things I was really excited about was Urkelpacha. The area, if you look at the art of Urkelpacha, to the very far right of it, there's a band of like colored stone, like just like long line of colored stone in the hills and stuff. And if you know your geography, right, that's an actual location in Peru, right? It's called Benicunca, and I think it's the La Montaña de Siete Colores, right? That's what they call it down there. There's an actual mountain in Peru that's a rainbow. And Final Fantasy XIV has taken and created an analog of it in Urkelpacha. So I'm like, yo, that's, I want to take so many pictures of that and then show that to my Peruvian friends and be like, look, it's Benicunga. And just like, just get them excited to see that reference in the game. And I think overall, in terms of everything I just mentioned, being able to see those references and understand how they're doing it in a respectful way is such a cool part of the universe of Final Fantasy XIV. Because it's not just a fantasy experience. There's some sort of relevance to it, to our backgrounds, and it's really, really cool to get into. So I'm ready to unpack all of that and be like, hey, that's from Peru, that's from Honduras, that's from Guatemala. Just start pointing out the country references and be like,
as
really
soon
excited
as
to get up
Dawn
and
Trail
into it.
happens, you'll just be like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going crazy. I speak Spanish for a reason, so I'm gonna be using that a lot, I think.
I'm glad you can get
yeah, I'm
excited.
super excited.
I never want to see New Jersey in Final Fantasy.
Don't worry, we're going to the southern portion of America first. That's
We can stay there. We don't need to go any further north.
Oh
That's
my
fine.
god.
That's fine.
But we did get a clouded Mericidia on the new map.
right. Yep, that was cool.
What'll leave first? The
Right.
clouds are over Mara City or Elsevier?
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. The entire
so
planet.
Here's the thing.
entire planet gets unclouded.
Just poking the bears. Right?
The
God.
funny thing is that when we were at FanFest and Yoshi P was doing the big reveals and everything
Yep.
on screen, as soon as he showed the new map, Croatoan will remember, I turned around to him, looked him dead in the eye, and shook my head. I'm like, nah, this ain't it, fam.
Yep, I remember that. That was so funny. It was such a slow-mo moment too. I'm watching Synodic as I'm observing the map being revealed, and then I turn to Synodic, and he turns around and he just goes, and I'm like, yeah, because we were I'm wearing the shirt, the Uncloud Ilsabard shirt. We're sitting here trying to promote this thing. We're like, come on, Yoshi P,
Oh
give us
my
a
God.
bone, and if anyone, I mentioned it a while back, but I actually got a picture. I got to take a picture with Yoshi P because of that golden ticket thing they were giving out. My girlfriend got a ticket to go get a picture with Yoshi P, and she gives it to me. And she's like, you should do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I went over there with my Uncloud Elzabard shirt for the photo op, and Amy translates the shirt for me to Yoshi P, right? And he turns to me and he says, someday. And I'm like, that's not an answer, man.
That's not good enough. That's not good enough. Someday could be next week or next decade. That's not good enough.
Right? I'm like, someday is so far. Like, come on, man.
Still better than Blitzball got.
When Joe Cat gave me his golden to go see Koji and Matt, I was all like, yeah, I asked them, and then Matt just looked at Koji. He's like, if we ask that to the writers, they're just gonna ask Oda. So let's just ask Oda.
Oda is the source. That is one thing. If anyone ever has a direct line, you want a direct concept brought into the game, you need to get your answer to Oda because he's the one that's drafting everything.
Yeah.
So
that's Happy's one phone. See, Happy has like a couple of phones. He has the red phone, Yoshi P.
Oh,
okay. I don't have it.
Does he now?
Okay.
Do you? For real?
Yeah.
Oh, well, this changes everything.
I mean, it might be. I'm colorblind, so if it's red, I have no idea. But that's. I don't have a red phone.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. No. What are they when we go to reclaim? What's it called in Ilsabard for the Garlands? The south.
Locus Amonis.
Oh, Corvus.
Yeah, when we go to Corvus, it'll get unclouded. There you go.
Yeah, I think that would be the time to do it. A very good time to do it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know the fact that we've gone to both Bosnia and Wurlit, which are both nations in Ilsabard, and somehow that didn't uncloud the map.
Exactly.
I was just like, okay.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, I made
it just
the entire
says,
video.
You go to Bosnia and it's question mark. I'm like, I know we're in Southern Ilsabard. What are you doing? Like, don't gaslight me, map. I know where we're at.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with the Island Sanctuary, though. Yeah. Like, whenever you go to the Island Sanctuary, it's like question mark.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, I know we're in the CL delays. Just say we're in the CL delay.
Just say it.
You're confused. The CL delays is actually in universe, like written with 3 question marks.
Bruh.
I wonder if it being question mark is a leftover from what Zadnor and Boja were supposed to be. Because originally they were supposed to be we were supposed to time travel back to before they were destroyed by the fall. That was the original plan.
Can we not do more time travel?
Well, that's actually why they didn't do it. They said because Shadowbringers
they just did the memory
time travel.
thing instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done time travel 3 different times now. Can we not anymore, please?
Yeah, because that was the whole reason they introduced Tartarus in the Ivalice quest line. They were going to use
Yes,
Tartarus
they never even brought that back.
That's what they were going to use it for originally. They were going. So now it's just a hanging thread that they will use.
And Noah. So the one thing I'm always sad about, and I always mention this, Save the Queen was such a good amount of like context, story, and narrative. But they didn't even finish the narrative in the game itself. You only know the conclusion of the story if you get all the field notes. And I was like, wait, why did you end the story in the field notes? I don't understand. That nobody's going to know that. They're going to be like, okay, so what happened? It's kind of already done. They're never coming back to this part. Wait, why? Because it's in the field notes. What?
It's funny you bring that up because a lot of people also have the same whiplash sensation with Ramza from the Ivalice raids. Suddenly going from a little brat to suddenly a nice kid, and everyone's like, "Wait, what the hell just happened?"
Oh, he got possessed by a ghost.
He was struggling until the aura site told him to be nice. That's why.
Exactly. It's kind of just glossed over. He gets shocked by Orosite and is like, "Oh, I'm a nice guy now."
Orosite is like bad.
The only person who's so terrible they're improved by Orosite.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought it was that he a part of like the original Ramza that his namesake comes from. It like influences him when the Orosite zaps him or something like that.
It's soul stuff. It's
Yeah.
all soul stuff, you know.
Yeah,
You know how it is.
It's all weird.
You know how it is. Yeah, soul stuff. You know how it is.
it's
Soul
it's
stuff.
basically just, yeah. Ramsar got fixed by things that would have like caused people to go like apocalyptically insane in any other context.
Right. Absolutely. Oh, hey, there's a
man.
giant alien presence that became a primal that's been asleep for the past several thousand years. We need you to go kill it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, don't forget, Hildebrand is now. So aliens have a political place of power.
Yeah.
in Lordaeron.
Okay, so funny thing about that entire story, though, I am 100% prepared for the Hildebrand story to kind of do like a big red herring rug pull, simply because like as soon as that cutscene ends with the alien race bit, like there are two different characters that come up and say, "Wait, that doesn't entirely make sense." Oh well, let's move on.
Yeah. That doesn't explain why they're nigh on invincible, I think, is what it is.
No, because like I remember that I think it was Nashu who said like, "Wait a minute, but Hildebrand's mom isn't an alien, so wait, never mind."
It's a
And then you
dominant
talk
was-
to Godbert,
That
and
was
he's
so.
all like,
That was.
"Yeah,"
my
he's
mind
like, "Oh, I've
exploded
been
on that
researching the
one.
family tree, but that doesn't make sense." Oh well, moving on.
Yeah.
I love that part because like I'm going to be completely honest. That part of the story is making fun of us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It really is.
It's
yeah.
it's a lore dump that's making fun of lore dumps. So
Yep. It's
It's
like
like-
you see Ultima Thule, right? You see the general concept of Endwalker, and you're like, wow, this is so absurd. You can't get more absurd than that. And then Hildebrand comes in and just proves you wrong every single time. And the what's even funnier about that is that it's home to some of the best animations ever created for the game. So it's like it's their experimentation spot to kind of play around with different animations before they put it into other stuff. But then it's also just like you really don't want to try to follow the story too closely because your head's gonna hurt a lot. And
Yeah. I've always liked Hildebrand's story because it's also where they introduce like smaller things that then become like quote unquote serious canon way later on.
yeah.
Like Sylvie was only really elaborated on in Hildebrand before the variant dungeon.
They had no access to Sildin lore until they just added this variant dungeon. The only way you knew the story of the War of the Sisters was doing Hildebrand. And so it's like you have to go through this absurdity.
Which is
to get
really
actual
odd because the
information.
War of the Sisters is extremely dark, and
Yes, it's
Hildebrand
so
is
messed up.
extremely comical.
That's why it's so
that-
great. I mean, it's the same
Right.
with Gigi, even just this little time mage puppet thing that
That's
has to be explained. It's like they go really ham at a lot. That's why I say you can't really sleep on Hildebrand all the way.
Yeah.
Not to mention
No,
that
yeah.
in Stormblood you have.
Well, now if you want the relics, you have to do them all.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
heck,
true.
even Nashu's
Yeah.
backstory is extremely depressing.
Mhm.
I think Hildebrand
holy
lets them
crap.
go as way darker than the main story because like the main story can't go that sad for that long.
Right. Oh yeah. Because yep. Put a couple
man.
Like, we
cutscenes
we
to
went
make
to a
people cry.
Fabmare
You can't do the whole
revisit. That's
story.
kind of the best we can do.
Oh,
Slide. Okay. Because we're a little bit past end time. That's perfectly fine. I expect it
Okay.
to happen on a lore
We're
show.
having fun.
Always normal.
Yeah.
I
Right.
want one last question before we sign off, though. Is there any particular, whether it be main or side quest throughout Endwalker, story beat and or lore bit that has stood out to you as a favorite?
Ooh.
Ooh.
I know my
Okay.
answer, so I'm waiting to see everyone else's.
let's see. I'm
See,
coming
I was
through
gonna
everything.
see. You kind of took a little bit of mine. I was gonna go like all throughout, like not just Endwalker, but the entirety.
I want to stick to
I-
Endwalker. I mean, because the thing is, Endwalker, if you pick one, it kind of forces you to pick the entirety of
Right, because
the
it's
last
the
10
conclusion.
years. They're all conclusions. Like Omega's a conclusion. Tataru's are all follow-ups to Raid Seer. Like all that stuff is all kosher.
I do have an answer, and it's like something that I'm always inordinately excited to talk about. Eureka Orthos.
There you go.
Yeah. I still need to get that 400.
Oh,
I can't believe I
got
have to grind for
400.
this.
Fucking insane.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, and I've always been the type of lore person. I love the amount of work that's done for the lore in this community. I love that there's all these videos and all these dissertations that help explain it to other players. But when it comes to my perspective, right, I have to do it myself. So I want to watch the video, but I also want to get the floor 100. So I'm at this standing point. It's like, can I get the floor 100? Not really, but I'm still gonna try. And Cleretic has told me and a bunch of other people that it's some of the best lore in Endwalker.
Yes,
and I'm tempted. I'm so tempted to go into that, but it's like, it
ties in utterly insane things that you'd never have thought to connect. It's fantastic.
I need it. I have to. Thank you for reminding me again. I'm gonna have to really put that there.
Yeah. I've always been happy because it confirmed a weird crackpot theory I had during the Shadowbringers patches that I raised, and people thought that's a kind of a neat thing, but it's that's kind of conditional. And then come Eureka Orthos oh no, that's actually true.
That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna dig into that.
I would recommend.
Yeah, let's add that to the task list of things.
So yeah, Sly's got to do Void Quest. You've got to do Orthos. All right.
Orthos.
I'm kind of wondering now, how actually could we just do an entire lore group run of Eureka Orthos? I don't think we're good enough at it, but
I'm not a bad.
Speak for yourself.
I'm terrible. If I can get the floor 100 with my group, you can. You'll be fine. Trust me.
That's fair. It's I spent most of that final floor fight dead. So
yeah, I think it was me and we were a 4-person group. It was me and when the tank. It was Tom. Was it you who survived? Was it me and you, or I forget?
Just do what my group did and kill it in under 60 seconds, so you literally don't have to do anything.
Oh, just pop everything.
you save 3 Onion Knights, 3 Onion Knights, 4 strengths, and it's dead, and before it even does anything difficult.
Yep.
That's awesome, though. Yeah. I mean, hey, that's strategy right there.
Yeah. All right, so we've got Eureka Orthos. You two have had a little bit of time to think now.
I have to say, if we're sticking to kind of the Endwalker experience, it was, and I don't know if this is tongue-in-cheek, because I've already kind of brought it up, but being able to go to Thavnair for the first time after 10 years of knowing it existed, right? Having that opportunity to, show up. And, I mean, there was references upon references there, right? There was the giant mountain of giant skull, I should mention. I mean, that was gratuitous amounts of giant skull available, which connected really, really tightly with its 1.0 referencing. And then what I really enjoyed, of course, there's a really special moment in my Endwalker playthrough where I was in the shores of Yed Lamad, and I was talking to all the NPCs, and one of the Ara mentions chutney, right? And I started to just get really, really that felt so nice because my mom used to make chutney, right? As she was born in Trinidad, but my descendants, my ancestry is Indian. So when I've seen all the Indian references and they're talking about curry and they're talking about lassi and all that stuff that I grew up with, and then of course, I mean, there's the giant statue of the elephant with the chakra. Seeing all of that was so. It was such an awesome opportunity to open that window to that side of my life that I knew growing up with, but didn't really understand. And so doing the lore research for it, when I was researching the references, I was getting more into Hindu concepts. And they have that whole, the tribal quests where you're throwing the colored powder just like they do in the holy celebrations. Oh, I loved all of it. That was so nice for me as a man of Indian descent to be able to engage with and additionally share the lore behind not only in the game, but in real life. Because I have a lot of people who ping me, they're like, hey, so you know a lot about Thavnair, right? And I'm just like, I mean, kinda. I grew up with it. It's just, it's not only a lore thing, but it's a life thing. And it was such a nice opportunity to invest time into and share that with people. And yeah, I will say, out of everything, being able to enter into Thavnair for the first time and really vibe with the aesthetic, that was amazing. Oh, the music hits. Oh, they did such a good job with the music too. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Love
the
all of
Balance
it.
is one of my favorite songs, and that's I know that's Ul'dah, but it has very similar.
Right. It connects.
And whatnot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't we ever get Rennie on the show?
Oh, was that?
It's funny. I actually consulted Rennie before doing certain videos on Endwalker
I
stuff
know.
for pronunciations. just to
We
make
should have
sure I
gotten her on
sounded
the
as
show.
not white as possible.
Yeah, we should have
No,
gotten
it's-
Brittany on the show, like for a
The accents, the
Yeah.
accents are difficult because it is a whole different language base, and I do hear some players, and no offense to any of those players, they pronounce it with an English accent, and they tend to say things, and you're like, that's not how you say that word, but you know,
It's
you're
very
like,
difficult.
yeah, and
It's
that's
a
the thing. I mean,
classic
I don't
thing.
expect people.
I mean,
I don't
that's
expect
bound to
people to know
happen.
Sanskrit. Yeah,
it's a
I don't
classic.
expect
Final
that at
Fantasy
all.
14
but,
takes inspiration from so many different languages. It's impossible to keep them
Yeah.
all straight.
I mean, yeah,
I mean,
'cause
you do
even down to
have-
like Bahamut.
Yeah.
Like it's Bahamut here, but it's Bahamut if you go back to
Yeah.
like the.
Actually,
OG
if you
version.
listen,
Yep.
if you listen to the first brood speaking dragon speak, they pronounce Bahamut as Bahamut.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
So it's everyone else doing the same thing that you were just saying that the creators. So everyone else like, yeah, it looks like Bahamut. Just say that.
Yeah, Tiamat is just like being like passive aggressive about correcting our pronunciation, and no one
Hey,
pick up.
oh, don't say it like that. That's my.
To be fair, they also speak really slow, so no matter what, it's gonna
Yeah.
sound like Bahamut.
well, to be fair, they're speaking in our brains.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dragon
why do
speak
they
is so
speak so
cool.
slow? Come on.
Right.
And then Scribe,
man.
we still need yours.
Honestly, this is an easy one. I'm going back to our first conversation. It has to. I have to give it to the 12 stuff.
Nice. It is
Because like it gave me the story that the Void like arc in Post Endwalker didn't. Like after like Base Endwalker ended, I had so many questions about like what does all of this mean now for the Star? What does this mean for its people, its cultures, and the world moving forward? And the 12 not only gave us a lot of answers to some of those questions, but it also gave us answers to stuff that we've been postulating and wondering about for the past decade. So it was nice to finally not only get all that addressed, but have it done in such a organic and beautiful way. Honestly, all of those zones, all the heavens we got to go through were gorgeous. The music
so
was
well done.
amazing, and like the fights were fun on top of it all. So I just got to give it to the 12 stuff. They knocked it out of the park with all of that.
It's also like a great like map for like lore that already existed that like suddenly now has a bit more roots. Like all of those heavens we went to, those are the astrologian cards. And like Limlane's boss fight, like Limlane herself has like several pieces of fish lore that are like relevant to her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
aren't those two
So crazy.
beings the ones that we think? One of them we think is the corpse in what's it called?
Yes.
Yes.
Genosha.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Pericos and Thalios
Yeah.
as the bit of
The sea serpent legend.
Yeah, because
yep.
we also
Yeah,
thought in the
Thalios-
1.0 cutscene for Limsa, we thought one of those was Pericos or Thalios as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like Thalios was is like the big skeleton on in that part of Lenosia, and like if you ask like the guy in charge of like the Eorzean aquarium, he's got a big theory about that one, which is like great. I'll just leave him to that one later on Twitter, I'm sure. But yeah, Pericos has not appeared in any other way except in like small like lore esoterica and fish. There's little Pericos and little Thalios off near like Costa del Sol.
Yeah, and I want to say, I do want to point out, at least from what I understand, the skeleton named Thalaos is not meant to be the Thalaos. It's supposed to be a giant sea creature from prehistoric Eorzea, or at least back then, that died there, fossilized, and so everyone had no idea what it was when they found it, so they called it Thalaos, because they're like, hey, that reminds us of the giant sea serpent that Limlane created.
Yes,
Let's just
exactly.
call
Then
it that.
influences what we see
Yep.
in the fight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So them naming the fossil then leads to the development of the entities that Limlane had control over. It's so crazy. Just all the little connections they made.
Yeah.
And
That,
you know, you
that's
mentioned
exactly
fish
the
lore,
reason
too.
I love the 12
Yep.
stuff so much. Like it feels like a lot of love went into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things they could have gone wrong with that they pulled together, or
But they
things
put a lot
could
of
have
good.
ignored.
They put a lot of good references to it. Yep. The Azema Azim connection was there too. I thought that was awesome. They actually took time to mention that because everyone made it up. I mean, even Urianger brings it up in MSQ at some point. He's like, hey, that's really interesting that Azim sounds like Azema.
Yeah,
And you're like,
yeah,
are you going to tell us?
I wonder why.
And they did. They actually did.
And then Azima's all like, "Oh, by the way."
Yeah, I used to be
I'm
your
a
best
fangirl.
friend. I used to be your best friend. You didn't remember.
And was
So
I think
that's
she
funny.
also said she was maybe going to be it. Like she thought.
Yeah,
about
she
it.
was
He was
the next in line.
aspiring to
Yeah.
become
Aspiring to be a
I guess you would call it the student of Azim or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
if,
she was
if
following in
the
the
final
line.
days
Was-
hadn't happened, then she would have been next in
Yeah.
line. Basically,
She
Right,
may have,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, over on like Halo might have become the next Pashtaro.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was crazy.
That was a neat one.
Oh my gosh, I was like, I had to do some digging because I was like, how many times has Pastro come up in Final Fantasy
Not much.
14? 3 times, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? That's it. And they just decided they picked that one, and I was like, wow, that's. I'm glad that they're giving an opportunity to because everybody asks every single questionnaire we get, every QA get, anytime you get to ask the devs, I see it all the time. When are the other Asians coming out? And it's like, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to fit that without it sounding annoying, because it's like,
Yeah.
I think at this point we are done with the Asians. Like, let's
Yes,
be
exactly.
for real. But mentioning them in casual conversation doesn't seem to be that bad so far.
Yeah.
So like
No,
being like,
I'm
oh hey, this was
telling ya.
Hamrold's place, and you're like, oh cool, that's
all,
cool.
all we
I
gotta
know.
do
but-
is like go over to the Dawn Trail like stuff, right? We're gonna wander around that area. We're gonna find some lonely dude on a farm, and he's gonna be tending to
I'm
his
Hamrold.
crop. And he's gonna be all like, "Oh, who are you? Oh, I'm Halmarut." And he's like, "Wait, you're an Asian? What are you doing here?"
It's
What
like,
does it
I'm
look like I'm
retired.
doing?"
I
And
just
that
want to.
would-
I just
and-
want to farm.
Thanos.
I wasn't into this.
In
Do you
my
meet those
opinion,
guys?
that would be the best way to
Yes.
interact with the rest of the Asians. So just
I would like
casual,
that.
you know,
I would.
yeah, like
They're done.
somebody-
They're like, you know what? I'm done with this whole darkness thing. I'm just gonna live
Exactly.
life now.
Zodiac
You
is
know?
gone. The Unsundered are gone. At this point, they're
Why,
like,
why keep
"Let-
trying at this?
wh-
Yeah.
Why even? Let's just
Mhm.
enjoy
They were
our
never-
lives now. Who cares?
Yeah. Maybe they were never into it in the first place. It was just
Right?
like,
They just stayed in their shards. Like, we're bored. We're done.
Exactly. We're gonna find
You just-
Pashtarat, Helmarut, Dudolfon, and Ultima like at a bar playing cards or something.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like you just
Way
go to
better.
the last stand and you just see this well dressed person. Like, hi, I'm Dudalphon. Like, what?
So, I know this is
Why
going to be like
are
a
you
really off the cuff reference, but does anyone remember that one? I want to say, one of the X-Men movies, was it First Class? When they're trying to recruit all the different
Wolverine.
mutants, and then
Yes.
Yeah.
they find
man,
Wolverine
Yeah.
he in the bar, and
Yeah.
he kind of just like, nah, and he leaves.
Fuck off.
Fuck off.
That's how we find the other Asians. They're in,
They got
We
one
need- we need
F-bomb
help
for
or something.
PG-13, one F-bomb for PG-13, and Wolverine. They correctly gave it to Wolverine.
yeah, no, that was awesome. Yep, and that's how we're going to meet the other Asians. They're going to be in the bar, and we're going to be like, hey, we need your help, and they're going to be like,
Fuck off.
nope.
nope, and just walk out, and like, that's so
Good times.
funny.
I know my
Dude,
favorite.
we're tired.
We're tired. I know Sly knows what my favorite is. I just like thirsty Suzaku.
Hey,
Yeah, that's fair.
That's
That-
that's my highlight moment.
And everybody knows mine. Like it's so easy.
This is the descendant
Wait,
of
overall.
Tenzin and Suzaku. Let him talk.
no.
1 second. Don't nothing yet.
Don't go peck his eyes out yet.
They all look at her. They're like, not this again.
That part of request was my favorite, just because there's like a whole lot of like really tiny like blink and you'll miss it like lore things, just like
Yep.
the little things that that just went on in Hingashi going on, and yeah, we like scared that one warlord like half to death again.
He deserves
That's
it
amazing.
every time, though.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't care if we have a really good PvP arena in his house. It's
How can one soy sauce boy cause so much trouble? It blows my mind.
Listen, soy sauce
Oh,
is serious
yeah,
business.
soy sauce mogul,
It's serious
yeah.
business. There we go.
So
He's just he's the Hingashi version of Godbit.
He is.
But he didn't make the soy sauce. He's just the son
He's
of
just
wealthy
selling
soy
it.
sauce barons.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
so
He doesn't even. He's
so
just
he
the
killed the
son.
brand.
That's right.
Exactly. He's just
The
a
son of
spoiled
soy.
brat.
The son-
He's Hildebrand gone bad.
Oh man. There's still so much more fun lore to finish up with too. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
That we'll-
Oh, totally.
They
Yeah,
did
I
can do a
make
quick-
they made a lot of references this patch. I will say that.
Yeah.
Like
I can do a
Lots of
fish lore
research to
news
do.
break if you want.
No, we probably I have something I need to get to soon-ish. So
Oh, fair.
I will start signing us down, winding us down
That's
here.
fair.
But it's been a great talk. I hope you've all had a good time. Both you actually, here with us on
Absolutely.
chat. That's like if you didn't have a good time, then shut up. They're just like they heard one opinion, they were just like, I don't like it. It's like, well, I don't care.
I'm mad. Yeah.
I'm mad.
I'm mad. I don't wanna. That's every person I tell that Dark Knight's magic isn't Dynamis.
Yeah. I keep trying to point them to Machinist's limit break, and like they never quite pick that one up either.
Oh,
No,
God.
that's a real
It's
satellite from space. Totally.
Just been floating the whole time.
Yeah, it's just Omega left that when he showed up. It just pooped it behind him just to like monitor everything. It's perfect. All right, well, let's start winding down. Thank you again for joining us for this fun little discussion of 6.5 and beyond with story and lore related stuff. Hopefully everyone enjoyed in the chat and over on YouTube, as you'll be getting to see this tomorrow. Before we do outros, quick thing. I have not been good with getting them onto the podcast app. So those are all 5 of the most recent ones, including this one. Those will be up at the same time pretty much tomorrow. So if you've been waiting for them, you now have a lot of material all at once to get through. 5 State of the Realms at once. So that's my bad, just because been busy with stuff. I got TwitchCon.
Hey, that's a whole day of chores right there. You can done.
Yeah,
Listen, get some
yeah. I thought you meant for me for a second. I was like, no, it actually only takes
No,
me like
no,
5
you-
minutes.
you-
But I just haven't done it as of late. It's like takes no time at all. That'll be done soon. All right. Well, let's start signing off. We started top left to bottom, so now we'll go in reverse, I suppose. So, Scribe, thank you for joining. Why don't you tell everyone what you're working on, what you're looking forward to with the patch, and this usual outro stuff. Sell yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Long time listener, first time sitting around in it. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I always got like new lore videos coming out every week. So anyone who's interested in learning more about Final Fantasy 14 lore, whether it's about one thing or another, I've always got something coming out. And yeah, that's just me. I'm always writing. I'm always creating.
I know that feeling.
Nope.
Cleretic?
Yeah, so you can find me doing like lore and story videos on YouTube. My current plan for the next one is going over the lore of all of the 12 that we all know forever now. That might take a little too long, so I might do a little side project in the meantime. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet.
All right. Cool. I'll make sure that's linked in the YouTube description as well, so
Yes.
they'll be able to catch that in no time. And finally, Croatoan.
All right. For my outro, I did want to take some time to thank Mr. Happy and Sly the Fox for
Thanks, Sly the
inviting me
Fox.
to this.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invitation. To kind of mention, I started playing Final Fantasy 14 in 2015. I also started watching State of the Realm in 2015. And I don't know, this is it's a full circle feeling, because I remember meeting you two at FanFest 2016, getting to talk a little bit, getting to take the photos, and now I'm here on the show, and it's very special to me. And I do really, really want to let you both know I appreciate this time and opportunity to come on, because it's like, yeah, I mean, hey, full circle now. I met you all. Now I'm on the it was nice. It was very, very nice. And going from watching this to being on it, huge jump. I appreciate that so much. And in terms of the stuff that I do, of course, I've been, and I keep saying the word busy because it's the easiest way to describe it, but I have had a lot of things to work on in the past couple days on top of Final Fantasy 14. I've been streaming Final Fantasy 16, my playthrough of that, and reading everything because, let's be honest, Valisthea is gorgeous and has a huge, deep history that also, I mean, it's the same devs, let's be honest. So I've been reading all of that, playing that, and getting a chance to knock that out on Twitch. And I've also been working on promoting the launch of HeroScape. It's a tabletop board game that I have mentioned in the past. It discontinued in 2010. They're going to try to re-release in 2024. And so I've been working with the company to launch that game and get it as known as much as possible. So yes, I have to mention it here. Like, I'm super excited for coming back, and it's definitely one of the things I've been working on top of Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 16, all the other stuff I do. So most important thing, if you do have any lore questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm on, you can ask me on Twitter, you can ask me on Twitch, you can ask me in Discord. I use the same names most of the time. And you can find me on those links, pretty much the same thing, SM Collate, so on, whatever. Those are the places you can find me at, and bring your questions if you have any. So, and once again, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really do appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Was so much fun.
It's been an honor.
And then Sly, I guess we also have to tell people. We have to.
Yeah.
That's us.
Why? Who cares?
Yeah.
Why?
All that. You first.
I mean, fine. I'm Sly. Who the fuck am I? Like, I drink video games. You can find me on Twitch, Sly K Gray Fox, Twitter at Sly the Fox. What am I doing with myself right now? I'm playing Lords of the Fallen and hating Gravity and Pilgrim's Perch. Fuck that place. It is October, so it is a spooky month, and rather than like backload everything into Halloween, I kind of want to, get a little bit ahead of it. So I will be doing some things in the coming weeks. Has nothing to do with spoopy, but I'm just getting out there. Spoodermans is coming out, so I'll be doing that. In terms of the spoopy, World of Horror is coming out October 20th, I believe. Slay the Princess is coming out. Also, I kind of want to do something a little bit different as well. Vampires the Masquerade, maybe. It'll be my first time. It'll be my first time, so I thought what better spoopy than Vampires the Masquerade. So yeah, there's that. And then of course, our yearly tradition of the Halloween stream with Sly Jennifer, because that's always a tradition and you don't fuck with tradition. So yeah, that is what's going on in my neck of the woods. Happy.
Also hating Gravity and Lords of the Fallen. I just try to run past the stuff that makes me hate Gravity. And then they still make me hate Gravity. Other than that, I've just been busy getting ready for TwitchCon next week. I'll be in TwitchCon, and I'll still need to wake up bright and early to go over EU FanFest and co-stream that. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be fun.
4 a.m. in Eastern Standard Time. That's so great.
I think it's 4 a.m. too. Shouldn't it be 5 a.m.? Because I think it's 2 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, for Pacific.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Wait. It'll be 1 a.m. Pacific if it's 4
No,
a.m.
well, that's
Eastern.
what I'm saying. It should be 5 p.m. Eastern, because I'm certain it's 2 p.m. Although you should definitely be up at 4 if you want to be awake at 5, technically. So, yeah. So yeah, that's been my primary focus. Other than that, it's just YouTube, Twitch, YouTube, Twitch, and lots of Souls games like Lords of the Fallen. There's Lies of P, Elden Ring crowd control. There's a Craft Souls game coming out that I gotta play.
I saw that and I'm fucking into it. I want that demo so bad.
Yep. So there's a lot going on. So that's my spooky for October, is just getting jump scared by giant moths that eat my face and being a crab that fights lobsters. So, fun times. But that's it for me. With that, we're going to go into a very short post show. I got to get to the gym and get home by 4 o'clock, hopefully. So that is my remaining plan for the rest of the month. But yeah, if you're going to TwitchCon, say hi. But thank you again to our guests. Thank you again to our sponsors. And with that, we will not see you next week because I won't be here. And so we'll talk about FanFest the week after that. All right. Sounds good.
Nice.
All right. With that, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Stay safe.
See you soon.